Yep, that's much better for me.
Perfect. Is there any echo?
No echo for me.
Nope. Beautiful. All right, so we'll do it this direction. Okay, it's got enough charge. We're good to go. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right, this is the basics of what we're going to be talking about. I'll go into more details, but you can come back and look at this later at your leisure. All right. When you go into RMS, the very first thing that you're going to notice is the launcher. It's going to be what actually checks for updates into the system. So we go through and we put out patch releases periodically, and when a patch release goes out, your launcher goes to see if there's a new one. If for whatever reason you are having issues with getting the launcher to go through, then we've provided some helpful links down here, and here for you to go through and take a look and see what's going on. But for the most part, your launcher should work pretty good and go through and update as it's supposed to. Some common errors happen. You'll get a disconnect error. This will happen sometimes when there's network overload, or if you're so far behind that you have missed 2 or 3 patches and RMS is saying, I don't know what to do. The way to fix that is there are these 2 links here, this one right here and this one right here, which can help you go through and kind of fix that one. Another thing to think about is when you open up the RMS, if it doesn't show after you run the launcher screen, so you see the launcher screen and then it disappears and it goes away, more than likely it's probably being minimized. This is a Windows issue. I'm not sure what causes it, but you can always check out this video right here to talk about how to go through and do that one. All right. Once you get into the login screen, this is the view that you will see, and as you can see, there's a lot of information on this screen. The most helpful things, if you're getting stuck for whatever reason, are the 2 buttons here up at the top right. You can go to our website and you can go to the support center. Now, a note about the support center: if Internet Explorer is your default browser, it's not going to work. So make sure you update your default browser to either Chrome, Firefox, or Edge, because then you'll be able to submit tickets, go to the support website, and get assistance. If that fails, you can always give us a call. Our number is 442-333-1011. So if this doesn't work, just give us a call. We'll help you and assist you with that. Or you can go to our website, which is going to send you links. It'll give you a link to the YouTube channel. It will give you a link to some documentation where you can download a new copy, and updates for when we're having trainings. That kind of information will show up on the website. Now, as government users, most of you are going to be logging in with your smart card. If you open up RMS and your smart card name does not show up in the smart card, you just click on this button for Refresh Smart Card, and that will go ahead and reset it to make sure it's actually doing what it wants. Once your name shows up, you can go ahead and click on Login. Now, if you can't log in for whatever reason, we have this lovely little button down here called Server Connections. This will allow you to check to see if there's any issues between yourself and our servers. Basically, you'll click on this Server Connections button, this one right here, and it will take you to another screen where at the bottom there will be a button that says Start Test. You're going to click on that test, and depending on how fast it goes through, it's going to tell you if there's going to be a problem. So if it gets stuck at anywhere in the 3 options that are in there, you'll know something is wrong. Give us a call. We'll go ahead and see if there's something going on or if the issue is on your side. Because sometimes with updates to changes in IT networks, things get a little changed and it can cause problems occasionally. Usually, though, on the government network, you shouldn't have that problem. The next thing that is of interest is down here. This will tell you in this little section which version you are running, this number right here. And as you can see, this is an older version. This was when we were running patch 328. Currently, we're running 343. So that number will update every time a new patch comes in. So anytime someone asks, are you running the latest patch? You can come down here and take a look at it, and boom, you'll know if you're running the latest patch, because if this number doesn't match what's in the release notes on our website, then you know you're not running the latest patch and you'll need to update that. If you need help with that, you can always call the help desk, or you can click on this button for support, RMS support, and go ahead and have us do that. Something else that's very important is the important messages down at the bottom. This will tell you when we have planned maintenance scheduled for RMS. please note that during the planned maintenance, RMS may or may not be working, but it is planned, so it's possible that it could go down. So during those weekends, you will know that if you try to get on RMS and you can't get on, it's probably because they're doing some kind of maintenance at that time. Okay. Once you get logged in, the first thing you're going to see is the map. Everybody will see the map when they get logged in, and this is how you're going to log into your various different districts. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can actually get into your district by the map view. By the way, this login screen button has gone away right now. The login button is showing up over here on the right side of the RMS support. So if you want to get back to the login screen, instead of clicking on this login screen, you're going to click on the logout button that shows up right here. That is one of the changes that has happened with 343, so just so you're aware of that one. But if you want to get into your district, what you'll have to do, there's two ways to go about doing it. You can pick it from the map itself, this list over here, or this list down here, or you can pick it from the USACE district. If this is your first time, this is all you're going to see. If you've logged in before, you'll see whatever you logged in recently. As you can see, for this user, Tulsa was the last district that they logged into. Now, you can use the recently used buttons in order to log there, or you can click on the district. So if you know your division is in the Northwest division, you click on Northwest here, and then down here at the bottom, it will show you the list of all of the districts that are in that division. You find the name of the district that you need, you click on it, and it will log you into the district itself. And as you can see, this is what it looks like. So you click on, this one was Southwest Division, and these are the districts in the Southwest Division here. Next. Okay. So some people will have access to more than one district, but if you do not, if you try to click on any districts that you do not have access to, you're going to get a login to whatever district it is, failed. Now, if you think that you should have access to that, you will need to contact the district admin for that district and verify that they have, one, created your staff record, and two, linked it to your CAC card. Now, one thing to note, if this is your very first time logging in, then before they can link your staff record to your CAC, you must first log into RMS with your CAC separately, and then log out and let the district admin know, hey, I've logged into RMS and created the account. Can you go ahead and link my CAC to the staff record? At which point, then you can log back into RMS, you will see the map view, and you'll be able to log into the district as it is. One more note about this. If you get any errors with logging in and the district admin has confirmed that your staff record is there, give the help desk a call and we'll be more than happy to assist you with that one. All right, navigation buttons. So RMS offers some very useful navigation buttons to kind of help you wander around inside of RMS. And once you've logged into a contract, usually what you'll end up seeing is these navigation buttons here up at the top, as well as this information that shows over on the left. Now, I'm going to talk about what's on the left first. Basically, the title of your contract is going to be what shows up right next to the red white castle in the left corner. Underneath the title in square brackets is your contract ID. Now, usually if you have to contact the help desk, we will always ask you for this number right here, your contract ID, because that will tell us both what district you're in as well as the contract. The next thing that will show up is the contract number that has been associated with this contract. And if you have a delivery order number, that will show up to the right of that right here. This contract didn't have a delivery order number, so it's not showing. Now, another thing to note is the help button is going to give you a couple of different options of what to do. It's going to give you access to the website. It's going to send you a link to JIRA, which is our support system. So if you need help with getting tickets or help out with how to do something in RMS, you'll be able to do that through the JIRA support system. But again, remember, it does not work with Internet Explorer. So if Internet Explorer is your default, you'll need to update that. Otherwise, the link won't work. If that's the case, the easiest way is just to open up a web browser, go to our website, and click on the support from there. The other thing that the help button will show you is how to go about checking to see if you have the latest version. So if you click on the help button, it will give you an option check to see if you have the latest version. There's a button that says something to that effect. The next button that I'm actually going to talk about is the back button. I'll come back to the refresh button. With the back button, RMS does not have a save button. So when you're in various different modules and you're typing in information and putting all kinds of stuff going on, it's not going to save it usually until you click on this back button. Once you click the back button, it will save all of the changes that you have made into the database for other users to be able to see. Now, once you have clicked the back button, if somebody else happens to be in the contract that you are in, this little refresh button will start moving. It will circle, 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 circle. So it'll start spinning around. That tells you that there has been a change to the contract that you are currently working in. Now, it may or may not be in the view that you're currently working in, but is always best practice. If you see that thing start moving, click the refresh button just to make sure you don't accidentally overwrite somebody else's data and they don't accidentally overwrite your data that you're currently working on. So just keep that in mind. That refresh button is there. And if you're going to be entering a lot of data at one time, you may want to do it in chunks, like do a section, hit back, go back in, do it in chunks, hit section. That's if you're worried about losing the data. But if you know for a fact that it's not going to be a problem, go ahead, enter all of the data and just use the refresh button when you see it circling. And then when you're done, click back to save all of your changes. The next buttons that we have are some helpful quick movement buttons. So if you are in something like the Pay Activities module, you go into the Pay Activities module, you double click on one of the activities to open up the edit view, and you want to go all the way back to the Administration tab. You can use this button here that says Contract Menu. What that will do is that will save, and it will also allow you to go back 3 screens instead of hitting the back button 3 times. Though honestly, if you're actually making changes, I would hit the back button first and then click on the contract menu, just to be safe. Contract selection will send you back to the district view. So that's going to be the list of all of the contracts that are associated with the district. And then the government mode home button is going to send you all the way back to the map view. Okay. Once you've gotten logged into the district, this is what you are going to see. Now, there are 2 things to note about this view right here, on this page anyway. There are different views for buttons depending on what option you have selected down here at the bottom. So if you want to search for a contract based off of the contract name and the contract ID, you'll make sure that the radial option is display contracts. This also allows you to add, edit, or archive contracts if you have the correct permissions to do so. If you want to look for it based off of P2 projects, then you can look at this little radial button. You're going to click on this guy, and it will come over here, and you will see the project ID showing up along with the contract name and the title. But it won't show the contract ID, and you lose the ability to add or edit because the view is different. So keep that in mind. If you think you should be able to add a contract and you do not see the add button, well, check the bottom right and see which option is being displayed. Okay. Now, this is a little bit more detail about what I was just talking about. You can read that at your leisure. Next thing, for various different ways of viewing what's in the district. So I'm going to start with the different views down here. So this is the data grid that we use in order to display all of the contracts. All of your contracts will show up down here, and you can search for them by using this search box right here. Now, I always recommend to use the search box because this will limit the number of lists that show up in here and limit the time that you spend going, okay, is it this one, is it this one, is it this one, is it this one? It's going to save you a lot of time. So just start typing in either, I think it's like the last 7 for the contract number, or if you know the contract ID, you can use the last 4. Which to me, I find that's the fastest way. The last 4 of the contract ID will pull up usually only one, and then I don't have to worry about hunting for which one I'm looking for. So that's something that will be very helpful. Now, if you know for a fact that that particular contract is in this list and it's not showing up when you go for the search, then check this middle section right here, because it will tell you if you are looking at it's behind this little box, I apologize. It'll tell you if you were looking at all of the offices in the district and if you were looking at all of the contracts. Now, that can be changed by this little section over here in the upper left-hand corner. This first top one tells you which district you are currently looking in and which office in that district. So in this case, this is the RMS test office, and it's including all of the sub-offices for this one. Now, if I want to make sure, now I know for a fact that that's actually not the root of this district, so that means I'm not seeing all of the contracts. I'm only seeing the contracts in this office and its sub-offices, but I want to see all of them. So then I would click on this ellipses button that is to the right of it, and it's going to change the view, and it's going to allow me to pick various different offices. I can pick the main district office, I can pick another office, and that's how I would go about changing the view down here. And remember, that's going to change the title that shows up right here. So if you ever don't know which office you're looking at, you can always look down here in this middle section, and it will tell you which office you're looking at. Then, if you want to only look at future contracts, you can click on this sort tile that says future contracts, or if you want to look at any of the other ones, you can click on those, and that will update this section right here. Now, as you can see, this one says all contracts, which is the first sort tile. So this is going to show you all of the contracts that are in the office that you currently have selected up here at the top. Now, if you have a list of contracts and you would like to be able to see all those contracts for outside of in another program, so that way you have it saved, then you can come over to this export button and you have the option of exporting it either as an Excel file or a PDF file. Your choice. Personally, I find the Excel file more useful than the PDF file, but that's just me. And of course, the last thing are the actions, which we've already talked about over here. And up at the top, underneath the title, header, and the navigation buttons, you will also see that there are some tabs over here. Now, these tabs are district specific. Each district has information in the local office, the district office, and all of these things up here. And that is outside of the scope of this training, so we're not really going to talk about this other than to say that you will need certain permissions in order to get in here and take a look at most of this stuff. And if you don't have the permissions and you think you should have the permissions, you need to contact your district admin to take a look at those ones. Okay, more navigation. So after you have gone into a contract, if you know there's one contract that you're going to be using a lot and doing a lot of stuff with, then what you're going to be looking at is you're going to want to create a favorite for it, because the recents is only going to show the last 4 recents that you've gone into. And if you have hundreds of contracts that you have to go into on a weekly basis and you don't always remember what the number is, and you know that every Tuesday you've got to go into XYZ contracts, then what you can do is you can open up the XYZ contract, and inside that contract, over in the upper right-hand corner underneath the help button, there is a button that says mark as favorite. You click on that button and then voila, it shows up in the favorite section on this one. Now, again, you only have the option of having 4 favorites, so 4 of them will show up and only the most recent ones will show up at that time. If you want to remove them, there's an X box, this little X box right here, you can click it there, or go back into the contract and recheck this box to uncheck that star, and that should remove that favorite from your list. Yep. All right. Sorting and grouping. So for the sorting and grouping, data grids are everywhere in RMS. And almost every single module that you're going to get is going to have a data grid. Now, let me back up for 1 second. On this screen, this data grid just shows a basic list. There's no sorting. There's no grouping on this particular data grid here. However, you will notice that in the contract reports, we already have sorting and grouping set up, and that can be found by showing this information up here. Now, if you're in another data grid and you want to sort it based off of one of the titles up at the top, all you have to do is click and hold that title and drag it to the gray bar up at the top and let go. Oops, wasn't supposed to do that, sorry. And let go off of this gray bar, and then what happens is it will put something like this for whatever title you put in there. and then it will change the view to look similar to this. Anytime you want to view it, you have to click on these arrows to either, if it's pointing up, that will close it. If it's pointing down, it will open it so that you can see the data that's inside. The next thing is the filtering. And the filtering is by using these little filtering icons that are to the right of each title of the column headers. So when you click on the filter, you will see that it will pop up, it will populate with all of the possible options in this top box right here. Now, this is all of the options that are currently in the list. So you can either go through and individually select them, or you can set, hey, it has to be, if it's a number, you can set it as greater to this. If it's text, you can say it's like this or it equals this. And that's down here. You can do an and statement, so you can test for two things that are the same, or you can do an or statement because you want to have this contract or that contract. And then when you've picked all of your settings, you can just click on filter. Once you're done with that, you close this X box, and it will filter everything in the data grid list, so that way it only shows what you asked for. When you want that data grid to go away, you click on this funnel icon again, and then you come down here and you say clear filter, and then hit the X button to get that to go away as well. Bottom. Oh, and there's a demo link for you for if you're outside of here. If you want to see a live demo of this, you can do that off of this link right here. All right, using the search box. Now, I already kind of did talk about this. Like I said, I recommend using the search box. Anywhere there's a data grid in RMS, then you got a search box, and that search box will help you limit the list. So if you have, say you're in the QC reports and you have over 1,000 QC reports and you only want to find the one that you know is from, that's numbered 143, then you can just go into this search box, type in 143, and that will limit all of the lists, so that way you'll just see 143 instead of having to scroll all the way down, because it's going to start at 1,000, and then you have to scroll all the way down until you find 143, and if you got 1,000, that's a lot. So use the search box. It's your friend. All right. Here's the export button again. So as I said, when you click on the export for a data grid, you get an option. You can choose Excel or report. Again, I prefer Excel, but that's me. You might actually want it in a report. There are reasons for having it in a report, but it's up to you what you want to do with that one. All right. Okay. Now, this is back for some of the groupings. So this is another set of the grouping, but the difference is now we have a demo. This is a live demo. If you have the slide, go ahead and click on that demo button. It's going to take you to a YouTube, and it'll show you exactly how to do this. So if at any point in time this doesn't make sense and we don't have time at the end of this training to give you a live demonstration, you can come back at your leisure, click on this demo button, and it'll show you exactly what we're talking about here. So basically, you click on the title of the column header that you want to group, and you drag it up into this gray title somewhere in here, and it will show up, and it will change the view, so that way you can do that. When you want to get rid of it, just click on the X button that's to the right of it, and it will go back to the regular view. Now, one thing to note that I didn't say before about grouping. With grouping, what happens is you will not keep that view once you back out. So that view is only temporary for while you're viewing it, and it's only viewed by you. So if somebody else comes into the same module that you're in, and they're in at the same time that you've put the grouping, you'll see the grouping. They, however, will not. And that's okay, because that's how it's supposed to be, because the grouping setting is just for when you want to change the grouping yourself. It doesn't get saved. So if you want to go back and change it again, you have to go in there. To sort, basically what you'll do is you'll use the title head just by clicking on it. So you click on the title header. Oops, sorry about that. Bad habit. You'll click on the title header one time to sort it alphabetically A to Z, 2 times to sort it Z to A, and a 3rd time to remove the sort completely. Okay. So once you log into the contract, this is the view that you will see in the contract. And what's most important, which is probably the biggest thing that you're going to notice, is the action item dashboard showing up right in the middle of your screen. nice and big and bold so you can see, hey, I got stuff going on. Now, there are 3 different colors associated with this dashboard. You've got green for all good. Nothing's due, nothing's late, nothing's worried about it. So high, medium action items, there's nothing behind. And then red. Red means that there are some high action items that need to be dealt with. If it's red, that means you need to click on it and find out what those action items are. Orange means that there's medium action items that have attention. And then we have one more yellow, that's for low action items that need attention. Basically, these action items are past due and something needs to be done to take care of it. So remember, red is for high action items, orange is for medium, yellow is for low, and green is you're good to go. Kind of like a red light. All right. So this is some different views about how the action items look. So the difference between this top one and the bottom one happens to do with whether it's government mode or contractor mode. Because in government mode, you have your government action items, plus the contractor action items, plus your individual action items, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the contractor only has their action items, the contractor action items, and their individually logged in action items. That's the only thing that they're going to be able to see on their dashboards. Okay, so what happens when you want to actually update and log? So let me back up 1 second. With the action items themselves, you won't see anything in the first part of the contract until you enable the action items. So under the Administration tab, there is a module that says Action Item Control. So you go log into the contract, go to the Administration tab, and find this little icon right here that says Action Item Control. And once you've opened that up, this will show you the list of all of the action items that you have the ability to enable and have set up for this contract. Now, you can copy from another contract, you can enable everything, or you can disable everything by using the buttons that are up at the top. If you want to do it with just some of them, then you find the one that you want and you single click on it, and it's, sorry, I keep doing that. I need to stop doing that. And then down here at the bottom, which will probably be on another screen, I will show you how to enable and disable each individual one. All right, so the things to note about this one is it tells you who the action item belongs to, what type of action item it's related to, and I need to stop clicking on my mouse. I apologize. I'm like happy clicking today. The title of whatever the action item happens to be, and what level that action item is. Now, this is those color related. This is a medium action item, so if it gets behind due, it's going to be orange. And then the high ones, remember, are red if it's behind, and then if there's any low, which are not showing up in this list, then they are going to be low is yellow. Green is everybody's good. Then this column right here tells you whether or not it's linked, meaning has it been enabled or not for this particular contract. And as you can see, only one has been enabled on this contract. Oh, there's my enable button down here. So select the one that you want to enable. You're going to click on it. You're going to come down here and you're going to change it from disabled to enabled, and that will turn it on right there. Another thing you have the ability to do is set up the responsible party. Now, this is where the My Action Items comes in, because you have the ability to assign these particular action items to a particular person by clicking on this box right here. Now, this box is for a staff lookup field. So the user needs to be in the staff district, or in the district have a staff record. And then you're going to go through and you search for their name. Once you find their name, you're going to select it, you're going to choose OK, and then the responsible party column is going to update with their name showing here. Now, again, remember, you have to single click on the item first before you can change all of this stuff, because otherwise it doesn't know which one you're talking about. It's like, what? So make sure you single click on it, click happy again. And then you'll come down here and you'll click on the not assigned, or if you want to change the who it's assigned to, you can click on it too and do the staff lookup and find the person. Another thing that you will find is all the way up at the top, these are sort tiles. These tiles will allow you to view only the ones that are associated with each individual section. So these are the government action items for all of them, low, medium, or high. This is government and contractor. This one is just for government, all low, medium, high. And this one is just for action items. And then you can show all of them or show only the enabled ones too. So this will allow you to do that. And again, remember, this is a data grid, so we got an export and we got a search box. Awesome. And this one, as you can see, is already grouped by government or contractor. So just keep that in mind. All right. Document packages. I am not going to read this because I'm actually going to describe it a little bit later. So this is here for your reference. Go ahead and read that at your leisure. Adding attachments. Okay. So the one thing I am going to say about document packages is they are everywhere in RMS. You've got them in the invoices. You've got them in the submittals. You've got them in the pay activities, contractor payrolls, pretty much everywhere you want to be able to share documents between the government and the contractor. You will have a document package in that module. And this is how you're going to actually share them. So when you first open up a module and you start, let's just say we're going to go with a QC report. Let's do a QA report because we're government. So you're going to open up a QA report and you want to be able to add documents to that QA report, and you've just opened up the QA report and there's nothing showing down here. That's okay. That's by default because it's not going to add anything until you tell it to. So there are these buttons over here which allow you to go through and do that. First one is add. This is how you're going to add the first document package to whatever it is that you're adding the document package to. Now, I believe there's no real limit on how many document packages you're going to add, but you probably want to keep them down to a minimum, 1, 2, maybe 3 for exceptional reasons, but usually if you can keep everything in one document package, that's usually better. Now, the edit button, you can use that if you want to, but I find that that's just an extra step because once you've already added it, when you go back in, it'll show up down here, and the easiest way to open it to edit it is to double click on it as opposed to single click and then come over and click on edit. So personally, I just double click on it. I don't really use the edit button, but it's there in case you want to do it. Now, say you've added it by accident. Well, guess what? There's the delete button. So you single click on it and you choose delete, and it'll go away. Now, make sure you're very careful about this one because if the document package has already been sent to PCF and you delete this document package, guess what? It's still in PCF, and yeah, you really shouldn't be deleting it because it's part of the legal record. Okay. All right. Once you have added the document package, this is the next view that comes up, which is the edit document package view. This is where you add the actual documents themselves. This is where you accept the package or return it for corrections if it came from the contractor. Now, most of the time, most of the document packages that you're going to be working on, came from the contractor itself. If you do not see this accept package or return for corrections, more than likely, if it came from the contractor, they did not submit the document package to the government for review. You're going to need to go back to the contractor and say, hey, I need you to submit this document package to me for review so I can go ahead and take a look at this thing. You're going to go through and you're going to look at everything in here, and then when everything's good to go, you'll accept it. Now, this accept button is what triggers sending the documents to PCF. So keep that in mind. Don't click that button until you know 100% all of these documents are right. If they're not, click on the return for corrections, have the contractor fix it. Now, if you need to add a document, then you'll just come up to this add button and you'll choose from file system 9 times out of 10. Well, maybe not. Depends on your situation, what it is that you're adding. So if you choose add from file system, you'll be able to locate the file on your computer, C drive. Somewhere on your computer, the file is saved. You can upload it from that direction. You also have a couple little options for the buttons up here, and that, I'll come to those in just a second. But another way is to drag and drop. Now, you can drag and drop the file. So you have your, let's say you have your File Explorer open, you've got the document showing up there, and you want to pull it in here, and you don't want to click on the add button. That's good. Just click on the document, drag it either in this white space here or in this square box right here, and it will automatically put it into the document package. Now, note, if this is a document package that the contractor has sent to you, anything you add to this document package will be able to be viewed by the contractor with the exception of the contractor payrolls, which is a little bit different. But same rules pretty much apply. if you don't want the contractor to see documents that you add in here, we do offer you another document package that is called Government Document Package. And you'll know if you've got that because in the view prior to this screen, there'll be two document package sections. The top one will be the contractor or shared document package. That one is what you share with the contractor. And the bottom one is for the government. And that's where you put all of the government eyes-only documents into that particular document package. So if you accidentally put it in the government eyes-only and then expect the contractor to see it and they say, I can't see it, that's why. So keep in mind, make sure you're in the right document package. The other thing to think about with the document packages is these sort tiles up here. These sort tiles will allow you to see only certain types of documents, which are showing up here. And it gives you the count of how many documents are showing up in here. Now, you also have the ability to generate a letter by clicking on this button right here. And it's going to bring up lookup to allow you to go through a bunch of different letter types to add. And that's outside of the scope of this training, so I'm not really going to talk about it other than say you can generate a letter using that button right there. If you need to sign the documents, and this is not a 4025, and I stress this because don't do this with the 4025. Only sign documents in a document package if you are not in a transmittal. Then, if you are not in a transmittal, you can click on this, single click on the document, and then come up here to say sign selected documents. And it's going to go through the process of signing it. Once it's done, it'll change the status over here. So as you see, this is electronically signed. Now, if you had to download it and re-upload it because you had to manually sign it, what happens is you'll upload it to here, and then you will click on the checkbox that says manually signed by government. And this signature status will change to attested signature attached. So that's how you know that it was manually signed instead of electronically signed. And until you click on the accept package button, the status is going to show what it is, either not signed, review required, or electronically signed, review required. Review required will stay until you click on this button. And then once you click on this button, then it will update from there. And of course, you can always edit the documents, you can view the documents, and you can save the document to file, or you can export selected documents, or you can export the list again. If for whatever reason there's a document in here that you don't think needs to be in here, you do have the option to delete it. But if it's coming from a contractor, I would suggest going back to the contractor and having them do that as opposed to you doing that, unless your district's policy requires that you do so. Let's see here. Did I miss anything? Oh, yes. Down here at the bottom, once you have single-clicked on the document, because double-clicking on it will open it, single-click on the document, you'll have the details showing up down here at the bottom. What you will see is the date of the document. This is the date that the document was loaded to the document package, and you cannot change that. That's not something that can be changed. What you can change, however, is the document title. However, we highly recommend that you leave the prefix alone. That is because with the prefixes, that helps users go through the process when they're either looking in PCF or the contract file to find the actual file, the document itself, by the prefix. And if you change the name of the prefix, then it's going to make it that much more difficult for someone coming behind you to try and find this if they're in the contract file. So keep in mind, try to keep the prefix the same, but you can change the ending of the title if you want to. You can also add a description to the document here. And then you can also add the government review notes down here at the bottom. And of course, once you're done, everything looks good, you're good to go. Again, accept package. If you don't accept the package, it's not going to send the documents to PCF, so keep that in mind. Let's see here. Did I miss anything? I think, nope. So, and all of this information is kind of what I talked about, but there might be more information than what I talked about, so feel free to read that at your leisure. Excuse me. All right, so this is more information about showing you how to do what I kind of talked about. So you have your File Explorer open over here, you drag it here, or you drag it here to include it, and it updates these numbers right here. Saving it. Yep, so I already talked about this one. Oh, one thing that I didn't talk about was talking about signing the selected documents. There are only two types of documents that you can sign electronically in RMS. That is a PDF file and the Word document. That's it. Now, what you will notice when you're signing a Word document is the Word document will be converted from a Word document to a PDF document in the sort tile count. So this number, if it was a Word document and you signed it, it will go from 1 Word document to 0 Word document, and whatever the number for PCF and increment by 1. So keep that in mind. That's okay. That's what it's supposed to do because we can only sign PDF files. So we can only go through the whole process with PDF. But if you have any pictures or any other files, those cannot be signed electronically in RMS. And once everything is done, if you're not ready to accept the package, click on the back button to save any changes that you have added to this particular module. Remember, there's no save button, there's a back button. It is your friend. All right. So this is talking about deleting the attachments. Again, you single click on it, you click on the delete, and it's going to ask you for a confirmation, and you can either say yes or no. And again, like I said, honestly, if this comes from the contractor, I would send it back to the contractor first, unless you accidentally uploaded the document, which sadly I've probably done in test contracts many times. I need to put that in there, let me delete it, please. So you do have the option if you accidentally grab the wrong file to click on this delete button. All right, this is talking about signing documents. Oh, sweet. Kind of already talked about this. So here's a little bit more detail about how to go about signing the documents and the different types of documents that are allowed and the counts that I just talked about. And again, we have a demo for live if you want to take a look and see that process going through. All right. Any questions about this first little section right here? We're going to go ahead and open it up for about, give or take 5 minutes, and then go from there.
I got a quick question. This is Kyle with Safety. With RMS, I noticed that when a contractor submits something to us, sometimes they put it in the upper portion of the submittal area, and sometimes they put it in the lower. Sometimes they separate them, sometimes they combine them all into one. Is there a better place to put them? What's with the two different submittal areas?
So that's actually a district policy in this particular case. Whether or not it's being put in the attachments or the document package down at the bottom, honestly, that's up to you guys. And if you don't like it and your district policy allows that everything go into the single document package, you can tell the contractor, hey, don't put it here. I want you to put it here because you're the deciding factor, but you have to check with your district's policy to see how that goes. RMS is not particular about how it's done, so that's pretty much a policy question in that case.
But so the two different locations don't really matter or have any functions other than open documents? It's the ability to allow it to do it in different places because some districts actually want. So if you have a submittal item that has multiple items in it, so they're submitting like 5 different things, there are some districts that allow that, and they want in each of those 5 different things, they want to see the documents just for those 5 things in those attachments only. They don't want to have to go into one document package and have like 50 documents that are in there and go through and try and figure out, okay, item 1, which one is for submittal item 2. So this is just the ability to allow those districts that require that to actually be able to do that.
Are you able to show us how those documents are created from the QCS side? Like, so that we
Are you talking about those specifically?
How they're uploaded.
So for that one, yeah, I can show you that, but that will be at the very, very end. So let me add that to the list of things that we're going to show. Let's see here. Show adding submittal item. And you're specifically asking about the attachments, right?
I would like to see, I'm referring to how the contractor goes about submitting, putting their submittal packages into the system and submitting them over so that we understand where they're putting them and how they're developed. Okay. All right. Yeah. So let's see here. How the KTR submits transmittals. Okay. Now we actually might go over that in the section where we're talking about submittals, transmittals, but for now I'll go ahead and add it to the live demonstration for the end of the stuff. And if we have time, I'll go ahead and go over that at that point. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I typed my question. I'm not sure you saw it. I was asking if I code a submittal and I wanted to change the code. Usually it doesn't, when I change the code, it doesn't update the government remarks. Is there a way around that?
When you change the code, it doesn't update the government remarks.
So let's say
So,
the E code and then I already applied the QA code and signed the 4025. It's now in the contractor to accept, but before they accept it, we're like, oh, I made a mistake and I want to recode it. I could remove the date and recode it, but it doesn't update the government remarks.
gotcha. Okay, I would ask actually that you go ahead and submit a ticket for that one because I'm not 100% familiar with going back and changing it, and I don't know if it's supposed to actually update the government remarks when you change it after you've sent it already to the contractor. So
But
go
they
ahead and
haven't
submit
accepted it yet, so it's not something like that. It's in their court and they accepted it. It's before they notice that I've made that code, whatever change.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, yeah, I understand. Yeah, sometimes that does happen, but like I said, go ahead and submit a support ticket because for that one, I would have to do some little looking around and see what's going on to see if it's supposed to do that or not, okay?
Okay. All right, thank you.
And yeah, if you are posting questions, sorry?
You have a request to demo bulk export, so you can add that to your list at the end since you can't see the chat.
Thank you, bulk export. Not that one. Okay. All right, any other questions?
I'm not sure if it's a district policy or not, but who is the one that is actually supposed to be accepting the documents in RMS? Let's just say you have a PM who's running it, who's a COR, and then they send it off to an engineer, and the engineer or someone goes in there, reviews their comments. Whose responsibility is it to accept it? And then where should the secondary reviewer, i.e. the engineer, be using that secondary field, or does it matter?
Dallas? Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, so basically, technically anybody can like accept it into RMS, you know, it's like, so it says contractor pending government receipt or something like that at the beginning of the transmittal section. And then once it's into our RMS and the government side, then it can go to, again, from anybody to anybody, but ultimately at the end of the day, the person signing it is the COR, the person with the contractual authority to do so. So, I mean, you can go above from there if needed, of course. And then they'll be the ones that are signing it. So it's really kind of up to the district how they want to say whose role. Like, for example, some districts have PM specialists, and that's really their task is to accept them on the government's behalf and send them out to whoever's going to be reviewing it. Sometimes that's the COR, and sometimes the districts have it set up that is the secondary reviewer goes in and they have a notification, and then they go in and accept it and make their comment, but then the COR is the one that ultimately signs it. So all the one with the contractual authority anyway.
Okay, I'm going to allow one more question if we've got one, and before we move on to the next section. Remember, at the very, very end, we'll have some more questions that will allow opening up and possibly some live demonstrations as well. Any other questions?
I have one more. I don't know if you went over it and I missed it. On where it says apply QA codes and sign 4025, there's a box that says select an digital signature. How is that different from apply QA code and sign 4025?
So actually, we'll talk about that in, I think, the third section. So in the third section of the training, we'll talk about that. So if I don't cover that at that point, please ask again at the end of that section, okay?
Okay.
Transmittal difference Excel between Doc Pkg and okay. All right, add it to my list. Okay, moving on. All right, so we're going on to the administration tab. This is a list of all of the different things that we are going to be talking about in the administration tab. There will be some things that we won't actually hit on, or we'll only like do a little bit of information on them because it's more in depth than what this training is going to go over, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at those ones. So that's for your leisure later. When you log into RMS, as you can see, by default, the view is going to have the administration tab showing up, and these are all of the modules that are going to be showing up. Now, I will always refer to the things across the top in black as tabs, and all of these blue boxes underneath are modules. And usually if you reference the help desk, that's what we always end up going through and doing. So let me go ahead and go to the next one. This is going to give you a brief description of all of the different stuff that we're going to be talking about. I'm not going to read it for you. You can read this at your leisure at any point in time. By the way, the slides are available on our website as well as, I believe, on the government SharePoint site as well. All right, administration modules. This is just a little bit more information talking about the same stuff. These are all of the modules that are listed, and I'm going to pop off to the next one. All right, first one we're going to talk about, contract description. This is where you set up the contract to be able to get it set up if it's going to be used, well, first part of setting it up to use for CEFMS connections. So this is where you're going to enter the information for the contract name, the title, the description, and let me see if I can make this bigger on my side because I am, oh, that's better. Okay, now I can see. Let's see here, zoom. Yay, all right, so manage the zoom in here. What we got going on right here is, dun, dun, oh, I can't use them both, darn. All right, I'll just zoom because that's better. All right, you've got the contract title up at the top, the fiscal year goes over to the right, then you got the contract short title, and then you've got the contract number and the delivery order number. The only thing that's really, really, really important here is the contract number and the delivery order number. Now, I say this because if you want to connect this contract to CEFMS, it is very, very, very important that these two boxes match exactly what is in CEFMS. So if CEFMS has dashes or spaces, then RMS must also have dashes and spaces. Also, those dashes and spaces must be in exactly the same place. Same thing with the delivery order. Now, even if your contract in CEFMS has an NA in the delivery order number, if it's in/A, then RMS needs to be in/A. So it's very particular. You'll figure this out if you put the information in and then you go to the finances section and you click on download from CEFMS that says contract not found. That's an indication that one of two things have happened. One, somebody has changed the information in CEFMS, or two, you didn't copy the numbers over correctly. So I would always go back to CEFMS, see what is in CEFMS, and make sure RMS matches exactly. That's very important. It must be exactly. Otherwise, you'll get that message that says, no contract found. And then you won't be able to get your progress payments. You won't be able to send payments to CEFMS, and you don't want to have that happen. So these two things are extremely important. And again, of course, your contract ID is showing up here. That is for RMS. That is for us. I don't think you'll be able to see that in CEFMS. The next thing is the contract description. You'll be able to fill this kind of information out. If you have a contract long description, you can set that. If you need to set the office, so you can do that through clicking on this contract office. Select contract office, and you can change the office if need to. We don't really recommend changing the office after the contract has started, but sometimes that does happen. You still have that ability to be able to do that. You just have to click on the button to bring up the lookup field for all of the offices and put it in the right office. All of this information down here at the bottom is available for you to go ahead and fill out. How you fill that out is going to be based off of your district's policy, and I'm not really going to talk about that in this particular training session. So next. All right, contract status. So you want a quick snapshot of what's going on with your contract, you can open up the contract status module. Now, the only ones that we're really going to talk about here is the contract status photo tab and the phase status issue tabs. The monthly progress is a little more in depth, it's more advanced, so we're not going to talk about that in here. But as you see right here, it says PE should keep status photos and status issues updated monthly until final payment. Now, that's based off of your district's policy, who's going to be doing it and how often they do that. Check with your district's policy on how to do that. So to add a new status photo, you click on this lovely little button here that says upload new status photo. You can save an old status photo to the file if you want, or you can view a status photo that is not the current one. Now, the current status photo will show up right here. It will also show up when you first log into the contract itself. So that first picture that you see when you log into the contract, that is the status photo. Now, if you don't have any status photo, what you'll just see is the default RMS image of some guys working, kind of working. It's not even a real picture, I don't think, but you'll see that. And so that's when you know that there's no status photo if there's no pictures or anything like that. And it will also tell you which one is, I don't have it in this view. It's probably going to be on the next page. Which one's the default view, and you can always go back and change it to another status view if you wish to. Go ahead and take a look at the next slide. All right, so yeah, that talks about what I just talked about, so we'll keep on going. Okay, on to the phases. So let me zoom in so we can see this one. All right, on the phase tab, this is where you'll be able to enter all of the information. Most of the contracts that I've messed around with have been single phase, but you might have one that has more than one phase, and you'll be able to enter both of the phase information in here. You'll be able to select what the contract status is by using this blue box. It'll bring up a lookup field to choose which phases you got. Then you'll also be able to select the primary delay code by clicking on this blue box. This is, again, a lookup field. So anytime you see a blue box, if it's not a sort field, it's probably going to be a lookup field. You'll click on it, it'll open it up, and it'll give you a list of possible options to choose from. If you don't see your option in the list, it's probably because it hasn't been added to your particular district, and you'll need to contact probably a district admin to find out how to get that added in there. Any remarks that you need to add, we'll go over here. When those marks were added, you need to add this date in here. Now, that's important because there are certain action items that will be related to this, and it will let you know, hey, I need to update my phase status, and it will do it based off of this date. So if you update the phase status and forget status and forget to update this date, and you still get that message, hey, I need to be updated, and you're like, I just did that yesterday. You just got to go back and update the date. Any issues with the customer, go logged in here. Any issues with government, go logged in here. And the information in these two boxes are coming from P2 if your contract is linked to P2. Now, down here at the bottom is your cost time growth. This is basically a summary of what's been changed in your contract. This is beyond the scope of this training, so I'm just going to tell you that this is here for you to be able to take a look at, but we're not going to really talk about that. So let's see here, zoom out. And of course, there's this information right here. You're more than welcome to go ahead and take a look at it and a demo if you need to. All right, now we are in the project delivery team. So this is the contract personnel module. So in the contract personnel module, you have the ability to add your project's delivery team members up in this top part by using these small add, edit, or delete buttons that are up here. Now, if you need to add somebody, you're of course going to click on this add button that shows up here. If you need to delete them, single click on their name and choose the delete button right here. And again, you have your filter option here and here. And then you have the list of all of the users that are in the district itself by the user role showing up. Here's your user role and then the names that apply to it. Basically, it'll show up down here. And if you want them to be part of your delivery team, then that comes up here. Okay, more on the contract personnel, and this shows you how to add the staff member. When you click on the add button, this is the view that you will get. It's a staff member lookup. You're going to choose the person's name, click OK, and then it's going to ask, okay, what are we going to do? This is the lookup. It's a little backwards, and then the position title. So you can set their position title by clicking on this blue lookup box. That's going to be from, I believe, either the district office or the district library. I think it's the district library. But you'll need certain permissions if you are missing anything for the position title. If there's a position title that's missing, you need to contact your district admin and find out who has the permissions to add that. And once you've added that person, oh, that's what it is. You select their name, you click OK, their name populates in here. Then you choose the position title, and when you click the back button, it saves it, and it updates this list right here. Okay, that is editing, does the same thing. So instead of using the add button, you double click on the person's name, it brings up the same view, and you can change their position title, or you can change the staff member and click the back button to save it, and poof, it updates the list. Now, when you want to delete them, person leaves, you accidentally added the wrong person, you can always delete them. Deleting is a good option, but it will always tell you when you click on the person's name, so you single click on the person's name, click on the delete button, it's going to say, are you sure? And that's because sometimes we accidentally get click happy and click the wrong button. So we want to make sure that we're doing it right. So if you are sure, you click on yes. If you're not sure, you click on cancel. And then when you're done, it will update the list. And when you're done with this, you click on back to save those changes with the deletion that you just made. Contract documents. The contract documents file is for legacy 238 documents. So the only people that are really going to be using this are going to be the ones that have a contract that started in 238 and has now been migrated over to 3.0. As you guys know, 238 has been shut down, so the only way that you can access any of the documents from 238 are from here, or if it was a 238 contract, in your document package, there's an extra button to the left of the document package that says Legacy 238 Documents. You can click on that and be able to take a look at that one. But we don't use this anymore because, again, 238 is, if it's a new contract, you're not going to have any 238 documents, so you won't need to look at this one. There's some more information about the contract file. You can go ahead and read that at your leisure, but I'm going to go ahead and skip this, going on to the next one to talk about the actual contract file. This is where you can find every single document that was added to a document package. You add a document to a document package, it's going to show up in here. So what will happen is when it's a brand new contract, you're not going to have anything. There's nothing going to be in here. These will start populating once you start adding documents to your document packages. So if the first thing that you add to a document package happens to be a submittal, then the only thing that you're going to see is the submittal item down here at the bottom. Otherwise, you'll see all of the options that you have for a particular document package. Now, what you will see, this is the default view. It shows up everything is closed, so that way you can specifically pick where you want to go to look for something. So say you want to go into correspondence. You're going to click on this little drop-down arrow to the left of the correspondence to expand it so that way it looks like this. Now, there are different things inside of the correspondence area that you'll want to go through and expand. So you see there's logs, there's letters to contractors, letters from contractors, all of this stuff. And if you know specifically you want the RFR logs, then you click on the arrow to the left of that to expand it so that way you can see all of the documents that are associated with that. Again, if you don't see a heading in this area, that's because you don't have any documents in that document package yet. Once you do have documents, it will show up. Now, two things to note. If you delete a document from a document package, it will be deleted from the contract file. If you delete a document from the contract file, it will be deleted from the document package. So be very careful when using the delete in the contract file, because if you delete it from here, it's gone completely, gone. So just know that. If you use the delete button in this section, it's gone from all locations inside of RMS. Bye-bye. Okay. Oh, wait, I forgot one thing. Expanding and collapsing. Now, with this kind of a sort view, we have two buttons up here up at the top, expand and collapse. So if you want to see everything without going through and click, 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 you can click on expand. It will literally expand every single one and show everything over that. If you want to collapse everything really quickly, you can click on the collapse button, and that will allow it to condense it back down to this view right here. All right. Now, there are occasions where you need to manually add a document to the contract file because the document package has already been completed and submitted, but you need something else to be added to it. So from the previous view, there was an add button. You will choose add button. It's going to ask you which section to put it in. It's going to give you a list of all of the different sections. You're going to choose the right one. And then once you've chosen the correct one, you're going to see the add edit view showing up right here. Now, this one already has the document added to it, so these two buttons are grayed out. You will not be able to select or generate another document after you've already added one. You do, of course, but this is coming from the templates at the district level, so you can go in and just fill out the template and use that. Or if you already have the template filled out and saved onto your computer with everything in it, you can click on select the document to add it here. Again, you'll have the same information. You'll have the file name. You'll have the document title. I would not change the precursor. You can add extra to it if you want, like, so you need to add a date, that you can do that, but I wouldn't change the default name for it anyways. Now, the date of the document, this is the only time that you can update the date of the document, and you can go ahead and enter the date that you uploaded or the date that the document was created, either one. And what you'll see underneath is the description, and you can add a brief description of what you want to say about this particular document. Now, if you need to add a really long description, there's this lovely little icon right here. It looks like a book with a pen. You click on that, and it'll actually bring up an expanded version for you to write more stuff and see more stuff at one time instead of just this little bitty box that's showing up right here. After you've added the document, you can edit it, remove it, view it, or save it. Your choice with these buttons. And once you've viewed it, you know it's good, it's the right document, you want it that way, you can go ahead and click on the sign document. After you've signed the document, then you can complete this particular file and send it to PCF once the complete button has been checked. All right, manually editing a document. So after you've uploaded it, if it's a PDF or Word document, you can edit those. But with the PDF documents, remember, you have to have a PDF editor. And I believe all government computers come with Adobe Acrobat, so you can edit those. But if you click on the edit button, it will open it up in the edit software that you have available on your computer. If you don't have any edit software, it's going to open it up in a reader and you won't be able to change that. So keep that in mind. But Word documents, it's going to open up the Word document you go through and you can edit. When you're done, you save it, you close it, and RMS is going to ask you, do you want to upload this and save it to RMS? And you're just going to say yes, and that'll take care of that. And of course, again, remove it or view it. There. Okay. Contract setup is the next module that full of different, this tab is no longer there. I apologize. We need to remove that. The only tabs that you're going to see in the contract setup are going to be these first 5, and that is with the newest release. This CVA tab has been completely removed and is no longer in RMS because it's not being used. So you've got these ones, and we're going to talk about each of these in here. Oh, yeah. See, this was removed in 338. That was a while ago. All right. Here we go into the Administration Funding tab. That is the first default view that you're going to see. And as you'll see, there's some information over here. You can always take a look at this if you want to at your leisure. I'm just going to zoom in. There we go. And we're going to talk about a couple of different things on here. If you are going to be using CEFMS, you use this lovely little checkbox right here, and you make sure you specify the CEFMS database. Now, the reason I say make sure you specify is because there are times that the district you're logged into and the CEFMS database that you're actually using for that contract are not the same. This is where you'll update that if you have to. If you're linking it to P2 and you want to use it prior to award, you use these checkboxes. And if you want to force only one phase because your P2 has 2 phases, but you only want to use one in RMS, you can do that by using this checkbox here. All right, this button is a lovely little button, but use it with caution. Allow government to enter contractor data. There are very, very, very limited reasons for the government to actually enter contractor data for the contractor, but we do have this option available for you if you do this. Now, note, if you check this box, RMS is going to ask you who you are to verify who is making this change. Also, when you uncheck this box, it's again going to ask you who you are to verify who it is. So if somebody up top comes to us and say, hey, who allowed contractor editing on my contract? We go in and we say, hey, it was this person on this day. So keep that in mind. If you're going to be using this, make sure you get permission before you use this option because the contractor should be the one adding contractor data to the contract, not the government. And then, of course, the boxes underneath, you've got, oh, here I am showing you stuff and you probably can't even see. I need to turn my thing back on. So all of these boxes right here are going to be up to your district's policy as to whether or not you're going to use them, tracking insurance, tracking payrolls, tracking labor interviews, DD 1354s, all that stuff. You can check these boxes as you need. Now, with this one, 238 has been turned off, so all of this information is by default going to be turned off and is going to disappear in the next, if it hasn't already disappeared in this current release. And the last thing down here at the bottom is the funding method. Now, we're not really going to talk about the funding method, but the funding method that's showing up right here is the default. And of course, you can change your currency type by clicking on this lookup field, which will give you a list of all of the currencies available for you to use for your contract. All right. Now on to the Payment Modifications tab. So in this particular tab, here's some information that is good for you to go back and read at your leisure. But what I'm going to do is just focus on the screen itself. And let's go ahead and zoom in. Yeah. All right. This information is pretty much coming from CEFMS. This isn't really going to come too much from RMS unless you've got it set up as a non-CEFMS account, as this testing one happens to be. Now, if you've got it linked to a CEFMS account, what's going to happen is you're going to see all of the funding accounts, well, excuse me, all of the obligation line item numbers here in this list right here. And of course, you got a scroll button to go through and look at it. And depending on your view, you might be able to see all of them at one time, or you might have to scroll. But this information is all pulled from CEFMS. It's not pulled from RMS, it's pulled from CEFMS. So if these numbers do not match what you think they should match, you need to go to CEFMS to update those numbers inside of CEFMS to allow for that kind of information. We have the option for you to allow additional earnings. It does happen occasionally, but you'll check this box if you're going to allow the contractor to ask for more money on something that doesn't have an activity. Also, if you want to ensure that all of the activities are included on the prompt pay report that the contractor creates when they submit an invoice, you'll check this box right here. Your AC modifications, this information, you'll fill this one out in order to set who's going to be doing that. These are all blue boxes, so they're look-up fields for different staff names. And of course, you can change the offices by using the buttons as well. Down at the bottom, again, it's the same thing, but this is for the CO modifications. And you just check with your district's policy to see who is responsible for those things. All right, QA tab. So for the QA tab, this is where you go to set up what type of reports you're going to be using, and that is by this QA report type. Now, this QA report type affects both the QA reports and the QC reports, so keep that in mind. What you set here is going to affect QA and QC. You'll pick the names for the people who fit in this column. If you want more than one shift, you'll click on this drop-down box. It'll give you the option of 1, 2, or 3 shifts. And then if there are more than one shift, you'll see the different titles for those shifts down here. Otherwise, you will select the names at this point here. You can set the units for your quality assurance. And if it's a border wall group, you can set that down there. The time extensions, basically, this is based off of where the project is. If you know for a fact that in April, you're going to have 10 days where it's going to be super heavy rain and you're not going to get anything done, well, it's advanced, so you can just go ahead and plop it in there and do it as expected, because that's what you do it. And then, of course, whatever the actual work week is for the contract and what the expected work week is, all of that information is added here. The Submittals tab. In the Submittals tab, this is where you go to set up whether or not you're going to have more than one register for this particular contract. And to have more than one register, you just click on the Add button, and then you'll update the information in that title. Now, this checkbox is very important, because if you decide that you want your schedules for submittals and stuff set based off of the activities, that's this checkbox right here. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to check this, and that will calculate the dates based off the activity schedule. Now, note that when you're calculating the dates based off of the activity schedule, if there's a submittal item that is not linked to a schedule on the activity, then that means you can't update that date. So just keep that in mind. You may want to have the contractors go ahead and just add a schedule for it that's $0, so that way you can set the dates if you need to. Your resubmittal, your review period days are set here. Contractor resubmit period day is set here. And then the number of default copies you want for all of these different types classifications of submittals go down here. You can set the government reviewer as well as who to address the 4025 packages to. And then the most important, well, not the most important, but the most useful in here is down here where it says the contractor schedule type. This allows you to have the contractor either use an SDEF file or use manually entered start and finish dates for a schedule. So if they're actually actively manually putting in all of the activities with the start and finish dates, then you'll use this one. If they're using an SDEF file, you can choose the SDEF file, and what you'll notice is underneath there's a checkbox that will say, force actual start finish dates to be in the QC report. Now, if you do that, then the SDEF file might actually have the actual start and finish dates for that, but when it gets imported into RMS, those dates aren't going to come in. So if the contractor comes to you and says, hey, I have these actual start and finish dates and it's not updating in RMS, why? You look at the contract, you come in here and you check to see if that box is checked, and if it's checked, you'll be like, well, because you're supposed to do it in the QC reports. So then they got to go back and then they got to do all that stuff in the QC reports. Okay, on to the next module, which is the P2 project. And basically with the P2 projects, you're going to click on the add button to link it to a P2 project. When you click on add, it's going to bring up a lookup field for the P2 project. Now, there are a couple of things in the P2 project that you are going to have to make sure are set up correctly in P2 before they show up in RMS. And that is, you need to make sure the P2 code and the task code are good, as well as I believe it's the amount has to be more than a penny. For more information on dealing with that, you can click on this button right here that says link P2 projects to RMS. That's a little tutorial video talking about exactly what you need to do for that particular one. Once you have selected the P2 project, all of the information from that P2 project will show up down here at the bottom under these 3 tabs here, which we'll discuss on the next slide. So the task status, this is the information that you will see in the task status. The milestone events will show all of the milestone events that are required for the project, and the cost time growth is going to show the cost time growth for that particular bit. All right. Next module is the correspondence. This is going to go through and give you just a base little update of talking about the correspondence. The only thing I'm going to note about here is the designation for letter numbers, H, S, and C. As you see, H is for the home office from the contractor, S is the site office from the contractor, and C is for government letters. When you create that, you can't change these extensions. These, or I guess prefixes, sorry, not extensions, prefixes. These prefixes are predetermined. You can't change this kind of stuff. And you can read the rest of that at your leisure. But basically, once you open up the correspondence, this is the view that you're going to be able to see. And most of the time, it's going to open up, well, not most of the time, it always opens up in draft mode. But you use these sort tiles in all of these different boxes to view the various different types of correspondence that you have. So if you want to see the ones that were sent that require an answer, you can click on this box right here, and it will sort this data grid down at the bottom. So that way, the only thing you see are the sent, answer, required correspondence at this point. If you want to see all of them, of course, click on the all. Then that goes for each of these various different sections. When you want to add, you click on the add button, and these are the options that you've got. Now, note, these highlighted in yellow right here, that has to do with the simple fact that the contractor has, or the government has allowed contractor edit views. You will not see these if you don't have that checkbox in there. So for the most part, ignore that. You don't really want to be creating the letters for the contractor. Have them do that. That's their job. Otherwise, you will see letter to contractor, request for proposal, letter to other agency, or government in-house memo. And based off of that will depend on where it goes. And as you can see, remember I was talking about the sorts over here. When you click on a sort button, it updates the title that's in the middle. Now that's the case in any view that you get. Remember I talked about it at the beginning. If you click on one of the sort tiles, it will update this information that's showing up in the title part of the data grid. All right, more information on how to do that. You click on letter to contractor, and this is the view that's going to come up. It will allow you to change the letter number. But again, you can't change the prefix because that's coded by default. When you're ready, go ahead and click OK. And then you get to the letter edit view. In the letter edit view, you can check whether or not it's required. You can enter the letter summary. You can click on the add, you can click on the add button to add the actual physical letter to the document package here. Once you have done that, if it's answering a letter already, select letters answered by, so letters answered by this particular one will go down here. Letters that are going to answer this one are going to go down here. And you can link them using these buttons down here. And notice that if you're answering it, it's these 2 buttons here. And if there is an answer, it's this button here. Let's see here. We're going to talk about document package. Yep. And so this is talking about the document package, how you've added the document package. Now, talks about the various different things at this point, but we're going to go on to the next screen because what I really want to talk about, okay. Yeah, back in the document package, this is the same as what we talked about before, so I'm going to go ahead and skip that really fast. And again, adding the document package again, skip that really fast. Signing, we talked about that. We talked about that. Excuse me while I go through. Okay, this is the page that I want. So after you have added the document, you've signed it, you've done all that stuff, and you finished it, you click the back button to save it, it comes back here. Now notice this one said accepted because after you added everything in there, you clicked on accept document package. When you are ready, then you're ready to send this to the contractor. You can change this drop-down box by clicking on it, and these are the options that you're going to have over here. You can either set it to draft letter complete because somebody has to review it, and then once it's been reviewed, it goes to draft letter, not draft letter, it says letter approved, and then once it's been approved, it can go to letter sent. And of course, it'll say, when you click on letter sent, it's going to say, are you sure this is really complete? And if yes, then yes. At that point, it becomes ineditable by the government, and the contractor can now see the letter that you have sent in response to some question, or if they need to answer it, they can look at it and be like, oh, I need to answer this question. So they can go ahead and take a look at it at that point. Once you are done, of course, then this is where we're talking about the sent. So you click on the sent to be able to see that the document, hey, there's the one I just added. Woohoo, okay, it's sent like it's supposed to. All right. Then when you need to receive a letter from a contractor, it's basically the exact same thing. Here's some extra information that you can go through and talk about to review that information. But since we have lots to go through, I'm not going to read that. You can read that at your leisure. And this is receiving the letter. It's the same thing with the document package, but this one is showing you how to generate a letter from using the generate. So in this particular case, you click on this generate option and it's going to bring up the Word template selection. You're going to see your options. You'll find the folder that the Word template is located in. You'll select the correct document template that you want. You'll click OK, and if it has any prompts, it's going to ask you for the prompts to fill out to finish filling out the letter, which basically will do the whole thing. Once you've done that, I always recommend that you double click on it and read the document that's saved to make sure everything looks like it's supposed to, or edit it as needed. All right, moving on to RFIs, Request for Information Module. In RMS, it will say Request for Information Module, but most of the time I will refer to it as an RFI. So RFI, Request for Information, same thing. This information is for your review. You can go ahead and look at that at your leisure. I'm going to skip that and go on to the actual view. So the contractor, you'll see two different tabs when you go in. Your default is going to show what the contractor is showing up for the RFI. And what you will see is if you've got a document package, it's in review. This is good. If it says in review, that means the contractor sent it to the government for review as they're supposed to. If it says not completed, that means the contractor hasn't clicked the button send to government for review, in which case you'll probably want to let them know, hey, you need to send this. Although in most document packages, if you double click on it, double click, not edit, same thing. It gives you the same place. But if you double click on it, it will tell you most of the time. You'll have a little button down at the bottom that says send to government for exception. So you can definitely do that if you don't want to wait for the contractor to get in there and do that. Oh, click happy again. My goodness. And that wasn't even on my mouse. Okay, sorry about that. But this is going to be the contractor's information. You won't really be able to edit any of this stuff because it's coming from the contractor, but you will be able to see all of the information. Now, when you get the document package, that you can edit. Oh, see, here's the status, not complete. This is when they don't send it. This is what you see. Then on the government response tab, which is where you're going to enter all your information, there is a document package in here. Now notice this document package, let me zoom in so that makes it a little easier. There we go. This document package specifically says government. Now, because it specifically says government, anything you add to this document package, the contractor is not going to be able to see that. So make sure that if you need the contractor to see something, you go into their document package. You can either add another one or you can add a document as long as it's still in review. You can add a document to this particular document package and just have them be like, hey, go back, look at this, review it, good. And if it's good, then you can go through the process. Okay. Let's see here. The next screen will show us what we want. All right. Now, once you've gone through and finished most of that stuff and you've entered the date, wait, let me go back. I apologize. Don't forget, you need the requested date. There is another date field that's in here that will need to show up. There it is. There's the date field. And once you've finished answering the thing, you can set in the date. Once you put this answered date in and the received date, then the option for answering completed will show up, as well as this button. So once the answer complete shows up and you've checked that, then there's a checkbox that says Core ACO approved. Once the Core ACO has approved it, they come in, they check the box, and this response will now be available for the contractor to view. Prior to checking Core ACO approved, the contractor will not be able to see your response. So keep that in mind. Now, there is a little text box down here if you want notes to add to the contractor for them to be able to see. That will go here. But again, until this box is checked, they're not going to be able to see that. So if you need them to see this information because they need to fix something or change something, then I would suggest sending an email to the contractor with that information, letting you know, hey, this RFI, you need to fix this. Done. All right, next one we got is the contract user entries. For the contract user entries, this is mostly used with the predefined macros that can be set up. So this is things like, let me zoom in so you can see this a little better. The project number, the phone number, the program, and you can set all of that stuff up by using this information here. So if you know for a fact that the project number is something specific, you click on this box, you enter that project number. Oh, here's my mouse. Now you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. And then, oh, yeah, so a lot of the macros are listed in this report right here. So if you go over to the summary reports at the level of the district, so you need to go, so if you're going to look for this report to see what macros are available, you need to click on this contract selection button right here. It will send you back to the district, the immediate district location with a list of all of the contracts. And then you'll click on the tab that was up at the top that says summary reports, and then use the lovely little search box over here to search for RMS Word macros. And then double click on that, and that will give you the list of all of the macros that are available for your district. All right, prime contractor. So the prime contractor can be viewed and edited to some extent by both the contractor and the government. Now, caveat, this top part of the information is only editable by the government. Only the government can enter this top section. So if you need to set the prime contractor, the payee office, and the DUNS is going to go away. It's no longer going to be DUNS. It's now going to be UEI. All of this stuff is going to be with one of the next updates that we have going through, and we will have a training tutorial video on those changes that are coming through and how that affects RMS. So be on the lookout on our YouTube channel for that kind of information. But right now, it still kind of shows up as DUNS until that information is completely updated. And if a contract has an old DUNS, I do believe the old DUNS will still show up, but you'll also now have the UEI information. But again, this top information must be done by the government. Now, if you do not set the prime contractor by clicking on this button to look up the prime contractor, then the contractor is never going to be able to access this particular contract. So that's very important that you set that up first. If the person is missing, or if the prime contractor is missing from the prime contractor lookup list, that means you need to go back to the district library and add it, district office. Go to the prime contractors, add the prime contractor there, and then you'll be able to do that kind of information. Let's see here. As the government, the very first contractor staff must be added by the government, and that has to be done in this contractor staff tab, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But all of the other information that's showing up down here at the bottom, this can all be set up by the contractor and should be set up by the contractor. So once you set up this top part and you've added the first contractor to the contract, they can get in there and then they can go through and go and add all of this information. Yep, that's pretty much everything that I talked about. Yep. All right, so for this one, this is talking about the NAS, the North American Industry Classification System. So if you have that code, you can go through and enter it in here. If you don't have that code, there's a website link right here for you to be able to look up and find out what that code is, and you can enter it at this point. Okay, now on to the Contractor Staff tab, so that way you can add that. Remember, government has to add the very first user, and the very first user must be an admin unless you go in, add yourself, and then do all that stuff. Just make the first user an admin for the contractor, because that will make your life so much easier. You do have the option of controlling it if you want to, but what I would say is just make one user, pick one user as an admin, and then tell them to do all the other users after that. So once there's one admin user added to this prime contractor, then they will be able to log into the contract in contractor mode and start adding everybody else. So that way you don't have to set up the user roles. You don't have to set up all of the users. You don't have to make sure their email addresses are correct, that kind of thing. So you're going to click on this add button. It's going to bring up the email address that's looking here. Now, if the user has not logged into RMS, you can still do this, but you'll need to verify that the email address they're going to use to log into RMS is exactly the same as the email that you put in this box right here. And it must match exactly. If you're off by one letter, or dyslexic like I am, and accidentally switch a couple letters, you're not going to be able to change that. So you'll have to delete that user and add another user when that happens. Once you've verified that the email is correct, you click OK. And then it's going to ask you for some information. You're going to enter their first name, they're going to enter their last name, and you're going to check the box, has administrator rights? Because remember, this is the first user. They must have admin rights to be able to add all other users to the contract, as well as to add the contractor roles for the contract side. Don't use this inactive button unless you're trying to get rid of a user. Speaking of which, there was one button. I'm going to go back a couple of slides here really fast. Oh, this one right here. So I went back because there are times that you want to prevent the contractor from accessing the contract. This button right here will allow you to do that. When you click on that, I don't care how many contractor staff you have, how many administrators you have on the contractor staff, they will not be able to go in and make any changes when you click on this button. Okay, so moving on. Subcontractors. So the subcontractors are more than likely going to be entered by the contractor, the prime contractor themselves, so they'll go into this section to add all of that stuff. But if you have any labor interviews associated with subcontractors and stuff like that, you'll probably want to have some kind of familiarity with this module so you know what it looks like. So let's go in to see what it looks like. Subcontractor module has add, edits, and deletes, just like everything else with the data grid, and you have the ability to enter this information. Now, something to note about this particular area is these responsibility codes. When you click on the add button, it's going to ask you for the responsibility code. And once you put that in there, you cannot change that. Once it's been entered the first time, you can't change that. You can change the title of the contractor, you can change the trade, you can change the amount, but you cannot change the responsibility code. So it's very important when adding these subcontractors that you make sure the responsibility code is correct before continuing on, so that way there's no accidental duplicates. Now, I would also warn the contractors, if they're using an SDEF file, that in their scheduling software, they ensure that the responsibility codes that are currently in RMS are exactly what's in their scheduling software, because if they're different in any way, when they import the SDEF file, you're going to get duplicates, because you're going to get the ones that were originally entered in there, and then you're going to get the new ones that were entered in the schedule. Yeah, I've had lots of people call in, how do I delete these duplicates? They've been associated with pay activities, and they've got insurance records and all this other stuff. Yeah, you have to unassociate all of that stuff. But 9 times out of 10, the reason those are associated is because of the scheduling software. So it's very, very important that the contractor makes sure that when they do the scheduling software, this responsibility code is exactly the same. So that way it prevents that. And also, when you're importing, you'll get a preview which will show you what changes are going to be made. So pay attention to those changes, because they will tell you if you're going to end up getting the duplicates or other problems to that effect. All right. When adding the subcontractor, this is the edit view. So there's 2 ways to get to this view. Either click on the add, put in the responsibility code, or double click on one that's already in there to update it and change it. And as you see, the responsibility code, you cannot change that, but you can change pretty much everything else. The only thing that I'm going to stress on this particular one is this payrolls ending day of week. Once the contractor starts on site, it is very highly recommended that you do not change this date. Make sure this date is set and doesn't get changed. The reason being is because the contractor payrolls dates are based off of this information, and it will only generate based off of this information. So if you change it, it's possible that you could have for one time that they'll have one for a Saturday and a Sunday in the same week. And if they're not paying attention, maybe they'll submit it on the wrong one. You'd be like, no, it's supposed to be on Sunday. Why did you submit a Saturday? This is not right. You need to fix this. So that's something to keep in mind. So once the contractor has started, it's highly recommended that we don't change this box right here. And of course, you can fill out all of the other information associated with the contract. And this is a lookup field for the trade. If the trade is missing, that's usually in the district library, or maybe it's the system library. I can't remember which, but that's beyond the scope of this training. So if it's missing, contact your district admin and find out how to add whatever trade happens to be missing. All right, contractor insurance. If on the previous page, the previous view, the subcontractor view or the prime contractor view, you have the checkbox that says track insurance inside of RMS, you'll want to use this contractor insurance module in order to enter all of the information, upload the documents, because there's a document package in there, and have the dates for when these insurances expire and are good through. Once you do, what you will see, if the checkbox is checked, then you will see the list of the subcontractors showing up here and the dates that are associated with what's going on. So you've got the general insurance date, the auto insurance, the workers' comp, the the form SF 1430. All of that will show here, and it will tell you who the responsibility code is for that particular contract. Now, PRIM is the prime contractor. Anytime you see PRIM, that is the prime contractor. I would recommend leaving it as PRIM because it just makes it easier for a bunch of other stuff down the road. So that's one. Editing. So to edit, again, double click on whatever. So wait. On the previous screen, the list for the prime contractor, you double click on their name, it'll bring up this edit view, or you can single click on it and click edit. And it'll also bring up this view right here. This is where you enter the dates themselves for each of the different types of insurance. And of course, here's your contract document package. This is viewed by both government and contractor. And double click on it to open it, or if there's nothing there, you click on add, it will open up the edit view and you'll go through the process of updating that. For your reference, this is what the SF 1430 looks like for each subcontractor, and this will be filled out based off of your district's policy. And the document package, basically the same thing that we've already talked about, because that's where you're going to upload all of the insurance documents that you need to add for this. Then, of course, hit the back button to save it. If you want to make sure you're tracking payrolls, you need to make sure this checkbox is checked, that it is tracking payrolls, and you can specify when those payrolls will stop. So RMS automatically generates contractor payrolls when a contractor admin logs into the contract and opens up the contractor payroll module. Prior to a contractor admin going in there, no payrolls will be generated. Now, once the contractor admin goes in and logs into this module, if you want to stop the payments, the payrolls from being generated based off of the milestones, you can pick the milestone that's listed in one of these three options for which to stop payrolls. Now, keep in mind, that means you need to enter an actual date for that milestone in order for the payrolls to stop generating. So the next time that the admin contractor goes into the contractor payrolls, it doesn't generate any new payrolls. It will have all the old ones, but it won't generate any new ones. All right, in contract payrolls. So for the payrolls, this is where you're going to see all of the different payrolls. And like I said, these are auto-generated. If nothing is showing up in here at this point in time, that's either because, one, the contractor admin has not logged into the contractor payrolls module in order to populate this view. Or two, they went in, but they don't have the option for tracking payrolls set up for either the subcontractor or the prime contractor, depending on what it happens to be. Now, what you will see is the status of the payroll, whether or not it's in draft, it's been submitted to the government, or if it's been accepted. You'll see the responsibility code for that particular and the payroll date. Now, remember, this payroll date is based off of the week ending date that was chosen. So if you chose a Saturday And let's say the payroll ending day of week for last week, that would have been April 15th, that's a Friday. That's not right. It would be April 16th, 2022 for that one, for the payroll date, because Saturday was chosen. If it's Sunday, then instead of being the 16th, it'll show up as the 17th. But just keep that in mind. That ending payroll day of week is what determines this date here. And of course, you'll see the number of employees that are associated with that payroll and the payroll hours. And you have sort tiles along the top for viewing all of the payrolls, submitted payrolls, outstanding payrolls, and approved payrolls, depending on what you want to see. Now, there is a button up here at the top, Contractors on Site. This is a shortcut button that will allow you to go through the process of just looking to see which contractors have been set to be on site and which should be showing up in this list. So if you don't see somebody in here, you can click on that button up at the top that says Contractors on Site to see if they've been added to it or not. And you'll see the dates, their start dates and things like that. Okay. Next, you'll go through and you'll review them. The best way to do that is just to double click on the payroll, and you won't be able to do it with the draft. You can only do it with the ones that are submitted to the government. So if you know that you need to do Dawson pipe and fittings, you're going to double click on that and go through and review it. And what you will see is this screen right here. Let me zoom in for you. Boom. Now, up at the top, you will not be able to edit any of this kind of information because that's what the contractor is going to put in. And the only things that you will be able to do is take a look at what's in the document package that's down at the bottom, and add your comments. Now, if you've decided that this payroll is good because you reviewed the documents, you reviewed the upper information, everything looks good, you click on the checkbox for accepted, payroll accepted, then it's done. You don't need to do anything else. But if you've noticed that there's something wrong with this payroll for whatever reason, then you click on this checkbox, payroll rejected. Now, remember I said that there's a slight difference with the document packages with payrolls. And basically what that means is once the contractor checks this lovely little box right here, they no longer have access to this document package down at the bottom. They can't see it. Done. Taken care of. They cannot see it at all. Now, if you want them to be able to go back and do something about it, then you're going to need to have them to click on the payroll rejected so they can go back and view some of the stuff, add another document package, et cetera, depending on what it is that needs to be done for the payroll. Okay. Labor interviews. So in the labor interviews module, this is where you will keep track of any interviews that you have with some of the laborers that are on the contractor side. And you'll do that by clicking on the add, edit, or delete. So say you accidentally added one to a contract that was supposed to go on another contract, you can select it and click on delete. If you want to edit it, you can select it and edit it, or my favorite, just double click on it to open the edit view. Or if you need to add a new one, you click on add. Now, if you add or double click, both of them are going to show you the labor standard interview edit view. So this is where you're going to enter all of the information. You're going to put in the date, you're going to put in who the subcontractor is, the name of the employee, the labor interview based off of whatever the lookup happens to be, the wage rate that's agreed upon, if sick leave is confirmed, and any other information that you need to choose from here. Now, if you choose yes, you have the option of choosing unresolved, yes or no. And that is for, is the labor interfusion agreed with payroll data? So if you agree with it, you choose yes. If you don't agree with it, either unresolved and have somebody else look at it, or no, you don't agree with it and this person doesn't get this information that they asked for. And of course, there is the document in the document package, and it has been accepted. So nobody can make any changes to it at this point in time. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions off of that section, and then we're going to take a real quick 5-10 minute break before going on to the next section. Are there any questions at this point in time? No? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a quick 10-minute break, 5-10 minute break, and then when we get back, we'll go ahead and continue with the next section. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue on. One thing to note, normally we try to keep these within 2 hours. Unfortunately, I am not talking fast enough, so I apologize. But if you have to drop off for whatever reason, that is okay, because we're recording this session. You'll be able to watch it again at your leisure once we've uploaded it to our YouTube channel. And usually it takes us about 5 to 7 business days to get that uploaded so that you can see that. So if you miss out of anything after at this point in time and you would like to go back and review that, or you just want to go back and review what we talked about, you can always check our website. Down at the bottom, we have a section listing where those files can be found, and then you can just go and watch that video again at your leisure. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the Submittals tab, and this is what's in there. And when you log into the submittals, this is what you get. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the specification section. So if you're manually adding a specification section, then you'll click on the add. You've got the option of doing it from master list. This is the master list that's going to show up. There are 3 tabs. This is from the district library, I believe. Master list, and this will show all of this kind of stuff here. This is what's being utilized if you choose to add from that particular section. And as you can see, this is the district library, and down here is the specification section itself. And you can choose add to get the information to show up down here at the bottom. All right, once you've added the specification sections, which you can do manually, or you can use the import, or you can use the master files that we just showed you just a second ago. We do have a video on that. If you want, there's a YouTube video on our YouTube channel. You can go ahead and take a look at that for talking about the different ways of getting this, the transmittals in. It's going to be the register, the specification sections, all of that kind of stuff. So once you set up the specification sections, you can then go in and add the submittal register, which is this view showing up right here. You also have the add, edit, and delete buttons in this section as well. So once the specification section is done, you click on the add button, and you'll go through the process of picking the specification section, setting up the numbering, and adding the information. What you will see here is you've got all the same views for sorting, viewing, and filtering that you have before. The biggest thing is now you've got these due dates. This is where that checkbox for allow activity start dates to be done. If you've got an activity or you've got a submittal item that's not associated with an activity, you're not going to be able to set the date. So these sorts will probably show up as past due or overdue all the time because it doesn't have a date associated with it. So click on any of these boxes to change what is available, and you'll see if something is overdue based off of outstanding items from the KTR, items in review by the government, or completed items, which is this button right here. You want to see all of the items, you click on this sort tile right here. If you want to change the register because your contract is using more than one register, you click on this box right here. When you click on the main register, it's going to either tell you, oh, you only have one register, or which register would you like to choose? And then once you choose the register, you'll be able to see that information there. And then, of course, there's more information here for your leisurely read later. After you click the add button or you double click on the submittal item, it brings up the submittal item edit view. Now this happens regardless of add or edit because this information is what's going to be set up. So the section number can be changed by clicking on this lookup field to choose the correct section number based off of the specification section that was set up in the specification section module. You can update the item numbers and the periods if you need to. I would check with your district's policy as to how to deal with that one. Adding a description and required for activity. This is where you're going to click on the lookup field for the activities that are currently set up in your contract. So that way you can see what activities are going to be specific for this submittal item. Now, please note, remember, this start date right here. Remember on contract setup under the Submittals tab, if there was that checkbox that says use activity start dates for the submittal items, you will not be able to change this date. If you don't have that check, then yes, you can change this date. You can set up the lead lag, the procurement, and the days to review. You can also add the drawing information as well as set the classification, the submittal type, and the primary reviewer. And if you want to add secondary reviewers, you can do that down here by using this add or delete if you add a secondary reviewer that you don't want in there. Now, when you are processing a transmittal, by default, the first view that you're going to see is actually transmittals in review. However, that's not the view that you want to see if a contractor has just sent you a transmittal. You want to see this one, pending government receipt, which is what is showing up down here. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to click on this sort tile for pending government receipt to bring up the list of the submittal items that have been sent to you by the contractor but not yet acknowledged by the government. To acknowledge those, you're going to click on the date received by government field 2 times to bring up a date picker button. Let's see if I can zoom into that so you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. There is your date picker button right there. You click on the date picker button, it's going to bring up this calendar, and you can go ahead and pick the dates once you have picked the date, you're going to click anywhere in the white space outside of that to get this particular transmittal to move from pending government receipts, that's this one view that you're in right now, to transmittals in review, at which point you can click on transmittals in review to look at them. Okay. Bing. Next. All right. So we're missing some stuff on this one, so I'll definitely have to do a live demo on this one in a little bit. Basically, once you go through the review process, you're going to look at what's in the attachments. You're going to look at what's in the document package down at the bottom, and you're going to figure out, make sure all of the documents that are required for that particular transmittal have been added and added correctly. And if they need to be signed, they've been signed by the contractor correctly. Now, at this point, what you're going to end up doing is, this is a little bit different. If you need to return it to the contractor for corrections because there's nothing, it's not right, you'll click on this return for corrections. If it's good to go, then I wouldn't do the accept button, because when you click on the button that says sign and apply QA codes to the 4025, it's going to complete all of that stuff automatically for you, and you don't want it to create a second document package. So in this particular case, you'll only be using the return for corrections in that particular case. And like I said, after this particular part, we're going to go through and do a live demo of the transmittal process, so that way y'all can see exactly what is not showing up in this particular slide right here. All right. Any questions of that? Just keep in mind, we will be doing a live demo here in just a little bit, but any questions on that one? Okay. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Next section. We're going to be talking about the QA/QC tab. These are all of the modules that are associated with, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And skip that one. Here we go. So these are the modules as you will see them. We'll briefly go over pretty much most of these modules. We'll skip some of them because they're outside of the scope of this training. But I'll give you a brief hit on pretty much all of these. Daily reports. The daily reports for QA daily reports, this is for the government to go ahead and enter. Contractors can't enter in the QA daily reports. They can only do the QC. So this is on the government to be able to go in and do all this information. When you go into the QA reports, this is what you are going to see. Let me zoom in for you here. You will see you've got 3 sort tiles up at the top. 1, 2, 3. You can view all of the reports, completed reports or not completed reports. As you can see, there is a column for whether or not the report has been sent to PCF, if it contains a signed document, if it's been returned to the contractor, and what the status is for the actual QC report, the weather report, and the date of the report, as well as the number. Inside of the QA daily report, what you will see is the ability to edit various different options, and those show up in these blue tiles, and you use the scroll down bar to show all of these information. So if you've got to enter the weather, which has to be done before you can do anything else, you click on this little section here. It's going to bring up the weather edit view, and you're going to enter in the weather information. If you want to add QA narratives, you use this one, deficiencies, QA tests, all of the information that you need. If you need to verify something from the contractor for the QC reports, that's right here where it says verify QC requirements. So that's where you're going to enter in that information. All right. Oops, wrong button. Ding. Okay. So this is a little bit more information on some of that stuff. You can read that at your leisure, and it basically is just talking about how you go through and do what various different things you do in each of those different sections. Again, this is for your information. You can read that at your leisure. Once the report is done, you can view what the report should look like here. And this can be opened up in a couple of different places. So let me go back 2 slides, 3 slides, 3 slides. So here, at any point in time after you've entered some data, if you want to see what the daily report is going to look like, you can click on this button right here, QA Daily Report, and it will show you a snapshot of where you are at that point in time, and that will bring that one up. Otherwise, once you are finished, you click on the report complete, it will generate the document package, and you'll go through the process of signing it if need be. or you can use the multi-sign for that particular one. Okay, mouse, where's my mouse? There it is. Next. We did that one, and we talked about that one. Okay, and of course, you've got the document package. That's the same as any other document package. The difference is this is a government-generated one, so it's going to be slightly different, only in the bottom part. So you don't need to worry about everything else up at the top is the same, though. Okay, so this is where the difference shows up. The first difference is this is the only button that you will see in the document package for a QA report because this is only for government. This did not come from the contractor. You only have the option of completing the document package when you're done. And then when you're done with the QA report itself, you check this box right here. Now, if you're multi-signing it, you don't necessarily have to check this box because that will be done through the multi-signing process. But if you're doing one at a time, then you just check on this one. You'll go into the document package if you haven't already, sign the document, and then check the box and call it good. All right, so this is the contractor view of the QC daily reports. This is what they'll see when they actually look at their document pack, their QC daily reports. You'll see something similar. The only difference is your tiles up at the top are going to be a different color. So blue is for government, gold is for contractor mode. So if you see a screenshot that shows up with the gold, then that's the contractor mode. So just know that in that particular case. And they've got the same options. They've got the add, edit, and delete, and they've got the statuses that'll show up. They've got the sort options as well. Next, QA QC summaries. So the QA QC summaries is going to give you basically exactly that. Summaries of the QC reports, the deficiencies, the tests, all of that kind of stuff. And you'll use these little boxes. Let me zoom in because it looks kind of small. You'll use these little sort boxes. Now my mouse goes away. These guys right here to view the various different ones that you want. Now there are two tabs up at the top. You got the QA summary and the QC summary. So you can see what's in QA, you can see what's in QC. And by clicking on any of these sort boxes here will show different information down here at the bottom. So keep that in mind. That's how you take care of that one. Weather delays. So the weather delays module is the next module of interest in the fact that you'll need to go through and verify the weather delays for the contractor after they've submitted the weather delay report. And you'll need to make sure that your QA report matches the contractor's QA report. If they don't, when you open up the view, which will be on the next one, it will tell you, hey, there's a conflict, and you got to resolve that. But this will show you all of the various different months that have done it, and it is by month only. So these will populate at the first day of the following month inside of RMS. So if we're currently in April. You're not going to be able to see April 2022 until May 1st, 2022. Then April will show up in this list. All right, this is the map that comes through. So by double-clicking on the previous page, double-click on the month that you're looking for, you're going to give a snapshot view of what the weather is in this particular view, this calendar. Now, you'll see the information of what's going on. Let me see if I can zoom into this. Mouse is on the wrong side. Here, that's a little bit better. So it tells you down here for this one that there's no QA report, but the QC weather didn't cause delays. That's okay, because there are times that you don't necessarily have to have a QA report for every single QC report. But just note that if there is a QA report, there must be a QC report. Because if the contractor didn't create a QC report for that day, then they will have issues with some exposure hours and stuff like that. So just make sure that they know that if there's a QA report, they have to create a QC report for that day as well for their exposure hours and stuff to be able to work properly. But otherwise, the information will show up in here. If there's a conflict in the weather, you'll see that in this little list right here, and you'll have a button down at the bottom that will allow you to take care of that. Once you are done with reviewing the calendar, everything looks good, then you can go ahead and click on this button that says Review Completed, and you're done with that. Definable features of work. Your features of work. This is where the contractor, most of the time, is going to be adding the features of work that are associated with this contract. Now, they will need to set up these features of work in order to be able to set up the three-phase inspections as well as the meetings, the preparatory meetings. If they don't have these features of work set up, they're not going to be able to set those things up. So it's very important that they go through the process of setting this up. Now, this is based off of the QC plan and approved by the government. So make sure that you've approved everything that's going in. You're good to go with that one. Three-phase inspection. Now, the information for the three-phase inspection is populated based off of the features of work. So, so for the three phases of work, if you don't see it in here, that means you need to go back to the features of work and add the feature of work, and then it'll show up in here. Double click on any of the features of work to set up the three-phase inspections for the meetings and preparatory information there. Oh, and for the actual held meetings, that's done in the QC report, so only the contractor can set that stuff up. Next is the activity hazard analysis. So if there are any ahas associated with it, this is the area where you can add that. So you can add, of course, add, edit, delete. Let me zoom in so we can see that a little bit better. You have the hazard analysis and the legacy hazard analysis. This is for the older FAST reports from a long time ago, but you won't really need that most for continuing forward unless you need to look at the old stuff. But for the most part, you're basically going to stay on the first tab and you'll go through the process. When you double click on a aha, then you'll bring up the edit view, and this is where you will enter the description, the feature of work that's associated with. If there's a document package, you can double click on it to add any documents that need to go with that. All right, QC requirements. This is for the QT test, the planned user schools, planned installed properties, those kinds of things. Let me zoom in because the most important stuff is up at the top. So one of the biggest things that a lot of people get confused about is how to complete a QC test. And that has to be done by clicking on this QC test sort tile right here. That's the only place where you're going to be able to see what the status of the test is. Otherwise, you won't be able to see that. So very important. If the contractor comes to you, hey, I've completed this test, I've passed it and everything, I've put the date in there, but now I can't put that the pass is passed. How do I do that? Then what they need to do is they need to go into this sort tile, click on this QC, and then they'll be able to update it there. Equipment checks. So if you're going to be using equipment on the job, if the contractor's using equipment on the job, all of that stuff goes in here. You need to make sure that it's running properly, it's got the authorized hours correctly, all of that information. That is added in this section right here. And again, you have the add, edit, and view. If you want to edit something, just double click on it. If you want to add it, you click on add. So if you click on add, first screen you'll see is this one. If you double click on edit, the first screen you will see is this bottom one here. Now, after the second screen for the ad, it will go straight to this bottom screen. Now, notice the equipment ID cannot be changed. So that can only be set up when you add it. Make sure you set it up correctly the first time because otherwise it will not be editable in the end and you'll have to delete and add another one. You click OK, you come to the edit view, you enter all of the information necessary. Now, after it's, you'll periodically have to update when the last inspection was and the last day on site. This only needs to happen once they've decommissioned whatever particular equipment it happens to be. And then you'll enter in the last day on site. In the QC report, this is where they're going to enter in the actual hours used for that day by that equipment. So first, they have to set up the equipment check. Once they've set up the equipment check, then they go into the QC report. They're going to go to the labor hours. It's the labor hours option. In the labor hours option, they'll go over to the equipment hours tab, and then they'll add the equipment, or of course they can copy from a previous day if it's the same, and then they just update how many hours it was working and how many hours it was idle at this point in time. And this will help populate the exposure hour reports later. And that leads us to the exposure hours. So the exposure hour reports is by the month. So what happens is when you open up the exposure hours, it's going to give you a list of every single month that this contract has been on site and has QC daily reports for it. If the QC daily report has not been completed, then the information that shows up in here may not be 100% complete. So once they have completed the daily reports, then they double click on the month that it happens to be that they need to send the reports. Once they send the reports, then you go through and you either set it as hours accepted, return for corrections, depending on after the analysis. If the contractor gets stuck, then we've got some training tutorial videos we can send your way, and you can send it to them for them to go through and do that. Now, note, the same thing applies here as the weather delays. You will not see the month until the first day of the following month in the list. QA test. So if you have to have a QA test done to validate a QC test, this is where that's going to be done. This can be found in both the QA reports as well as the QA test module itself. So you can add it and you can set the date complete. If you need to review that, though, that's done in the QA reports. The required QC verifications. So once the contractor has submitted a QC test or a QC, something that needs to be verified by the government, then y'all have to go in and take a look at it and see what's going on. And as you can see, you've got different types. You've got the installed property to verify, the QC test, the transfer property, and the user schools, and it will tell you based off of what you got, a little graph down here showing what's up with that. You'll go through, you'll review them, and then as you can see, requires verification, you can check that box. So if you know there's going to be a test that needs to be verification, this is where you set that up. So you set up what requires verifications in this actual module, and then when you verify, you do that in the QA reports. Planned interviews. So this is where you can put in where you're planning on doing interviews. So if you have a couple of subcontractors, like, oh, I have to interview 3 people here, I have to interview 4 people here, you can enter that information in here just as a reminder for when that needs to be done. Refresh the daily reports. So there have been times that you might actually need this, so that way you can preserve the exact state of date associated with a report at a particular time, or you need to refresh it because it's changed. So you sent it, so originally it was accepted and then it was returned for corrections and something was changed and now it needs to update. So this is the module that you go through and you check which one needs to be updated. What it will do is it will take what is currently in that QC daily report and regenerate the QC daily report document to reflect that information. Questions regarding the QA/QC tab? No? I'll wait a couple of minutes just to see if there's any more questions, and if I don't hear anything after a minute or two, we'll go on to progress payments. All right. Moving on to progress payments, if I can actually hit the right button here. All right, so progress payments. The things that we're really going to talk about with the progress payments are pretty mild because they are fairly in-depth. So the only thing we're really going to talk about is the contractor pay worksheet and then adding, editing, and evaluating a pay request. This screen is going to give you a basic overview of the progress payment in general. You can read this at your discretion. The contractor pay request worksheet, this is going to give you a brief overview. This allows you to go through and say, okay, contractor did this, 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 and this, and you look at what they sent you, and you can go through the process saying, yeah, you can have this much. Yeah, you can have this much. No, that's too much. You didn't do that much work. I'm sorry. You can't have that much. But that's a pre to actually doing the invoice. You can find that by going to the contract reports tab and then searching for worksheet or contractor pay request, however you want to do that, and then double click on it to open it up. Now, when you double click on it to open it up, this is what you're going to get. And it's going to give you a bunch of information associated with the pay activity in question and all of, if there are tests and things associated with it based off of what the contractor entered, what the government entered. And based off of that information, y'all can decide and agree upon how much is allowed for the next invoice that the contractor is going to submit. How you go about doing that, whether or not you use and utilize this particular worksheet, will be dependent upon your district's policy. The actual progress payments can be found under the Finances tab in the Progress Payments module. What you will see is a list of all of the progress payments. Now, one thing to note about this, the view from the contractor mode is much different than the government mode. So if you say, oh, this invoice 2 has been created, and the contractor goes, no, it's not, I don't see it. It's because they're they don't have it listed until after you go through and review it. Just let them know that their button to view the invoice is on the bottom right, and they'll be able to get into it that direction. All right, so there's two ways to enter the progress payments. They can do it manually or they can do it through an SF file. That depends on your district's policy as to how it goes through and how they're going to go about doing that. Either way, we'll end up with basically the same basic results in the end. You still have to review it and approve it and go from there. Now, once it's been submitted to the government, you'll double click on whatever particular invoice it happens to be, and it will bring up this view right here. The first tab that you see is the invoice tab. You're going to have to go through and fill out the top portion of this view. You're going to have to check what you do with these particular buttons is dependent upon your policy and how the contract is set up as to whether or not that's going to do anything. Now, these dates must be set, and this payee office must be set in order for you to make the payment. If those things are not set, once you get to the obligations tab, it's going to complain at you, and it will let you know, hey, the office hasn't been added, or hey, the date hasn't been added, or hey, the date is wrong. It will tell you where to go, and usually you'll have to just come back here and reset that. Now, the payee office comes from CEFMS. So if you click on the payee office and there's nothing in the list, that means it's not in CEFMS. So you need to go to CEFMS, add the information in CEFMS. Now, this is from the contractor information. And then once it's uploaded in CEFMS, you can come back into the invoice, do a CEFMS download, and you'll be able to click on it and show the list for the address in order to send this payment off. And of course, you can set this information down here as well. All right, we just talked about that. Obligation, okay. So for the first tab, the change payment priorities. If you click on that, you're going to bring up this view right here, and you can set the priorities 1, 2, or 3. Usually, you just leave it at 1 unless there's extenuating circumstances to change that. I would check with your district's policy whether or not you're going to change that. But otherwise, you have the option to change it. The obligation payment terms comes from CEFMS. You can't change it in RMS. If these terms are not correct, you need to go to CEFMS. Processing the pay request. So the next thing that you do after you have agreed that the invoice tab is good to go is you go to the requested activity earnings. And this is the information that the contractor sends to you. So this is what they're listing them. Depending on how you set it up, usually the default is only going to show you what they actually requested money on. But if you want to see all of the activities, then you can click on this sort tile right here, and it will show you every single activity that's associated with it. Only ones that are requested or ones that haven't been completed in the pay. And then the next tab is going to be additional earnings. This is where you're actually going to do most of your work, because that first tab, that requested activity, that's from the contractor. So this is where you can make changes and go through and do some stuff. Now, whether or not you use this tab is dependent upon your district's policy, but you do have the ability, if the contractor asks for like 50% on this particular activity, and y'all had agreed on 40%, you can go in and say, no, this is not 50%, this is 40%, and you can update that. Or you can return it for corrections by going to the invoice tab, click on return for corrections, and tell the contractor to fix it. Next tab is the subcontractor earnings. This is only viewable by the government. The contractor has to enter all of this information. However, if the contractor is withholding money, you are the one that's actually going to be holding it, not the contractor themselves. So just know that in this particular area, this is for your view only, so that way you know what's going on. The allowed CLIN earnings. This is for your view. This is going to show you all of your CLINs and the current, the previous amounts, the total amounts, and for this particular invoice, what's being requested off of these ones. This is for your review. You can't change anything. The next tab that's of importance is the additional earnings tab. Now, this area right here is if you actually are allowing the contractor to request information or request money for things that are not in an activity, this will show up. Otherwise, you won't have this option. You'll just be able to view this information that's showing up here. But the important thing on this one is both this checkbox down here and this tab right here. Most of the time, probably 99% of the time, you're going to want to use the standard calculation and then just click this checkbox to complete once you've agreed that everything on the previous tabs is good to go. And then you're going to go on to the obligations tab. So you cannot go on to the Obligations tab until that checkbox is checked. Now, this view right here, let me go back over here. So if you want to change this from standard calculations, you click on this ellipses button, and that will bring up this view right here to allow you to change between standard calculation and periodic calculation. You can go through and read all of this information on the differences between standard and periodic at your leisure. But just know, like I said, 99% of the time you're going to be using the standard calculation. Once you check the box for total allowed earnings complete, you can now move on to the Obligations tab. This is where the actual money happens. So this is where the obligations are tied to CEFMS. So with the standard calculation, it's going to base everything that it does in here based off of how you created the award cleanse, as well as how you set up the modifications. So if at any point you come in here and you see that it's not set up to the right place, it's probably because it wasn't properly linked either in the award cleanse or the modifications. And we do have 2 training videos on how to fix that one. But after you reviewed everything, if you click on any particular obligation line item, the details for that obligation line item will show up down here on the bottom. If you have any errors, those will show up here in this box. And when you are done after reviewing everything, you're going to click this ENG 93 box completed and move on to the document packages box. This is where you're going to take a look at any documents that the contractor submitted, and this is where you'll find the ENG 93 and the government document package down here. Once you've accepted the document package by signing the ENG 93 and choosing accept, and you've accepted the contractor document package, you go back to the Obligations tab. Oh, this is going to show you how to view all that stuff and look at that. That's all the same. Ding, ding. Go back to the Obligations tab, and poof. Now at this point, the button for send payments to CEFMS is available. If you don't come back to this screen and check that box, this invoice is never going to go to CEFMS. So it is very important. After you review the document package, you come back and you check this box. Click on the button, send payment to CEFMS. Once you sent the payment to CEFMS, within about, I don't know, depending on your internet connection, 5 seconds to maybe 30 seconds, it's going to be in CEFMS. So you can go check CEFMS. It will show up in there. And like I said, depends on your internet connection, but within 30 seconds, it's in CEFMS once this box has been checked, or once this button has been pushed. All right. Another thing that you have the option for is to view the various different reports that are associated with this. So to do that, you'll go into this reports button, which is just underneath the help button. And these are the reports that you can look at. You can look at the prompt pay report, you can look at the ENG 93 report, the contract files report, and the checks. Now, one thing to note about all of these reports is the prompt pay report that shows up in this report is not the signed report. That is only found in the document package. This prompt pay report is based off of what it actually looks like at this point in time when you click on this button. Same thing with the ENG 93. This one's not going to be the signed one. So if you've already signed it and you click on this one and you go down to the bottom and you see no signature, you're like, wait, where's the signature? This is because that only shows up in the document package. So you have to go to the document package to look for that one. All right, and these are the various different reports that you've got. You can go ahead and take a look at this prompt pay report, and now we've got the pay estimate for the ENG 93. This is the information that you will see. And page 2 and 3 of the ENG 93. And the contract file, this is a list of all of the files that are going to go with the contract file for this invoice. So pretty much everything in the document package that is not the ENG 93 or the prompt pay. And then the payment details for invoice number 1, this is the checks. So if you want to know the status of whether or not it's been paid or not, you can come in and open up that report, and it will tell you when the check was paid, what the check number was, what the earnings were, and all of the other information that's associated with it at that point in time. And this will only show up when the payment has actually been sent from CEFMS. All right. Any questions regarding that before we go on to some of the live demos that we were looking for? Okay. So the last screen that I'm going to show you before I move over to the live demo is our resources link. So at the end, there's a bunch of resources that I think would be definitely helpful for you to go over some of the stuff that we've already talked about. And of course, always, you can go to our website and take care of taking a look at our website. So while I'm waiting for questions, I'm going to go ahead and load up on my RMS and put it on the screen so that way we can go through. Let's see, there are 2 things that we need to do a quick live demo on. And then if anybody has any other questions, we can do that. Let's see here. Where is that at? So I need 2 instances of RMS open.
On the RFI section, there is a section to enter the comments of whoever answered that RFI. And when we switched over to 3.0, you couldn't use that person's name anymore. Is there a way to switch that back instead of putting my name?
So update the RFI who responded to it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so we have a record of who responded to the RFI. So they don't usually enter their comments anonymous in this district, at least.
You might have to put in a support ticket for that one because I think you are supposed to change the name, but there've been a lot of changes, so I might not be right about that one. Oops, I hit the wrong button. So yeah, go ahead and submit a support ticket for that one, and we'll go ahead and look into that for you. All right, let me.
I think for the RFI, the last I knew on that is it had to be linked to an RMS staff person, right? So you could choose their account from the drop-down list, and then they were the ones that were supposed to put the reply in there. Now that changed because we didn't want people putting in responses for other people. So say I went in and I created an RFI and I put in that I was Melody Little, right? They didn't want that, so they linked it to your CAT card. So I think if it's not. So it tries to go based off of your login is from what I'm saying. We used to allow free, anybody can enter that in the past, but I think it's based off of your login now. But like Jennifer said, you can always put in a ticket on that, and then we can take a look at it just to make sure just make sure everything's working the way it should.
You're correct, Paul. Right? Yeah, I was asking it to be changed back, but I'll put it in.
Got it. Yeah. A lot of that stuff, by the way, comes down to us from headquarters, or it did in the past, and these days a lot of it comes down from the CCB. So make sure you guys let your local CCB rep know, because the more people that ask for a feature, that I think that gets like on the front burner and whatnot.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And is also, from what I understand, if there's a system administrator for your district, they can go in and choose the who's in the staff tables for that reply. But normal users like you and me, it's locked to our account, I believe.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions before I go on to the live demo? Oh, okay. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is how the KTR submits a transmittal. So let me go ahead and pull over my KTR view down here at the bottom. Y'all should now be able to see my hold on. I have to change my view. Give me 1 second. Display settings. I need to make it smaller because I can't see the whole view. Here we go. There, much better. Okay. So you should be able to see my contractor view with my lovely little toy in the background. Can everybody see the contractor view of the login?
I see. Yes, I see the contractor mode, and I think it's a picture of the sky and a truck, right?
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
So when the contractor goes through and does a submittal, they're going to go into the submittals, they're going to go through the transmittal log, and this is where they're going to choose add. Now, this is the difference, one of the big differences between government mode. They have this draft option. Unless you've got that checkbox checked for the government, you're not going to see this. So you won't be able to see anything they've got in draft. They're going to choose add. They're going to pick the specification section. They're going to choose next. They're going to choose the item that's associated with it. If they need to change this, they'll do that. Otherwise, they'll just go through finish. Now, at this point, it's going to go to the edit view. Once it gets there, it's just a little slow on my side. There we go. So now this is where the user was asking about the attachments. So this is where the attachments will show up. This is where if you have more than one submittal item and you want to make sure that attachments are associated with the submittal items, this is how you can do that. You can click on this attachment, and when you click on this attachment, it's going to open up 2 possible document packages. Now, this is the government one. This is one of the rare ones that the contractor can view, but they can't do anything with it. But when they want, they'll click on this add button to add the document package. Now, I'm not going to do that here because I'm going to do it in the actual document package down at the bottom. When an attachment is set up here, well, you know what, let me do that anyway so you can see what the difference is. So I'm going to randomly just add some file by choosing add from file system. I'm going to pick whatever this file happens to be. I don't know what it is. Now, with the files, you can load files that are up to 250 megabytes. If the file is more than 250 megabytes, you're not going to be able to upload it into RMS. But you can upload as many files as you want to. So if you need to break that file up into a couple of different files to make sure that it's 250, then you can go ahead and do that one. Now that I've done this, the contractor needs to click on this submit for review or sign it if need be. I'm not going to sign this particular one because I will sign one of the other ones later, but I'm going to go ahead and submit this for review because I know this document is done. So once I do that, it's going to say, are you sure? I'm going to click on yes, and I'm going to click on yes because I haven't signed it. And then I'm going to click on the back button. And what you will see, you have to do it twice, is that now it's showing as one attachment and that it's in review. And that's also what will show up on the government side once the government gets it. Now, at this point from here, if I need to add comments, I can add them here. If I need to do anything else, I can do all of that stuff as well. But the contractor should then click on this create and digitally sign 4025, unless they want to add all of the documents to the bottom document package, in which case they click on add first. And then they go add from file system. Let me pick the other file. Now, if they're going to sign any documents in here, they need to do it now, and they need to make sure they do not click this submit for review button because that will happen when they click on the last button. So let me go ahead and back up. And now at this point, we can do create and digitally sign 4025. It says, are you sure? Because this is going to send it to the government. Yes, I am sure. It's going to ask for their password. And they'll click on the sign button. It'll go through the process of signing. And depending on your network connection will depend on how fast this goes. Cool. Nope, still doing. And it's still thinking about it. All right. Now, what you will see is it is now changed from not complete to in review. So this is pretty much done. Everything is blocked out. I can't make any changes. I can't change the date. I can't change any of this stuff. So at this point, what I can do is hit the back button. Now, as the government, I need to go in and look at that. Now, I have some special testing settings, so you won't be able to see this district, but you will be able to see your districts, and going into it looks about the same. So give me just a second while I log into that contract. Which contract was I in? I was in 2578. All right, so I want to go into 2578, and that's the last four of the contract ID, 2578. See, my start view is wonderful. Now, from here, I can hit enter, or I could double click on it to open it up. Me, I just hit enter. And now I'm going to go over to the submittals and the transmittal log. And as you will see, the first view is transmittals in review, but I want the one that I just sent to the government. So I need to click on this guy right here, and here it is. At this point, I'm going to double click here to get my date picker icon, click on my date picker icon, pick the date, and then click anywhere else, and poof, it moves from pending government receipts to transmittals in review. Now, at that point, I think the user was just asking for that information. Was there anything else regarding the transmittals that I did not answer? Nope. Okay, well, let me open this up really fast just to show you what your view is going to look like. Since I'm still trying to find where my other list was. I think it was the bulk edit. Where did it go?
So going for the YouTube video, because there's quite a few of them with regards to different details on these processes too.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll go ahead and show that then. So what you will see here is you'll see that there's one attachment up here and that there's a document package. So anytime you come into a submittal item and you're looking at it, check here first to make sure there's nothing in here, or if there is, go through, review it, take care of it. Your secondary review remarks go here, and then other remarks go down here. And then, of course, you double click on the document package to go through. Once you reviewed, you apply your QA code here. Once you've selected that it's good, then you can do the apply QA codes and sign the 4025. Now, note, if the contractor manually signs the 4025, you're not going to be able to push this button. You'll have to manually sign it as well, which means you'll have to go into the document package and sign it that direction. But if you want the QA code to show up on the 4025, you need to use this button right here. So if the contractor did not electronically sign, you'll need to send it back to the contractor for corrections, and they'll need to have somebody else go in and electronically sign it in RMS, so that way you can electronically sign it. All right, so speaking of YouTube videos, let me pull up our YouTube channel.
You don't have to pull it in. You can just link it to them and let them know that there's lots of different videos on a lot of these topics there for more details and stuff.
That is true. Paul, can you help me find some of those links, please?
Sure. What specifically are you looking for?
Just the ones for the, go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
No, you can just link the YouTube channel itself, and they'll be able to pull up that information. But there's lots of different videos on the YouTube channel that talk about transmittals, pay requests, RFIs, etc.
So, as Kerry indicated, this is going to be the first of our brown bag sessions, and today's topic is going to be how.
Paul, I can hear you.
Sorry about that. I had a video on autoplay. Here's the YouTube channel. I was like, wait a minute. Why is Boston talking?
I know, right? I was like, huh? And then I realized it was a video. Also, you can get to our YouTube channel by going to our website, rms.usace.army.mil. There's links to all of that information as well. All right, so the next thing it looks like somebody asked about was bulk export. So in a contract, you have the ability to bulk export the document packages for various different document packages. That's under the Import-Export tab over here, and you're going to go into Document Package Export. In the Document Package Export, these are the options that you have for bulk exporting all of the document packages. The documents in those document packages. You'll just pick the ones that you want. After you've selected those ones, you'll click on Get Documents. Now, depending on how many documents are, this could take some time. So keep in mind that when you do this, you might have to leave your computer connected and on overnight if you're doing a contract that has, you're asking specifically for QC reports and has over 1,000 QC reports, and in every single QC report document package, you have 10 documents. That's going to take a really long time to download, especially if your network connection is kind of iffy. So just keep in mind, RMS will let you know once it's finished downloading. It will tell you, or you can go to your where you chose it to save. Because once you click on that Get Documents, it's going to ask you, where do you want to save this? Go to that folder, and you can sit there and watch it. As the download goes, it will populate the document as it gets in there, and it will continue to populate. And it'll go through there. And if it gets stuck at any point in time, then you might have to go back and start again. But that's usually because the internet connection was interrupted. So it's important that you make sure your internet connection is not interrupted while you're doing these bulk downloads. One person asked what's the difference between signing in the document package and not, so with the transmittals. So that, I kind of hit on that just a second ago, but let me go back to that. The biggest difference is the ability to add the QA code. If you go into the document package here and you click on this 4025 and you choose Sign Selected Document, the QA code that you have applied to this transmittal is not going to show up on that 4025. So it's not going to be 100% complete, in which case that's not going to work. So you want to make sure with the 4025 anyway, you click on this Apply QA Code and Sign 4025 in order to make sure the QA code is actually on the 4025 form itself. Okay. Were there any questions in the chat that had not been answered, or does anybody else have any other questions that they would like to ask at this point in time?
What is the difference in the shared package there on the transmittal to the government transmittal package then?
So with this one, this shared document package up at the top, this one is for contractor and government to view. That's what this one is for. So if you want the contractor to see something, then it goes in this document package. If you need to add a document that you do not want the contractor to see, that goes in this bottom document package down here. So everything that's in here is only viewable by the government. That's the difference between those two.
Wondering, when you are in the milestone, what's the difference between the NTP, notice to proceed, with the completion date?
So there's a huge difference between that. The NTP is what allows the contractor to start doing QC reports, as well as to start doing activities on the contract. The other, I think you said it was the completion, that
Yes.
stops. Okay, that one stops all of that. They'll no longer be able to do QC reports. They'll no longer be able to do payrolls, any of that stuff. So the NTP is the start, and the completion is the finish. So no contractor payrolls or any of that stuff. Does that answer your question?
Please, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, did you explain the select and include digital signature box? If you already did, I'll just rewatch the video. I don't want to hold you.
Say that one more time. I apologize.
They select and include digital signature box. Did you
no,
explain that?
I did not talk about that. So for this one, this will allow you to have extra information to show up in the digital signature that shows up on the 4025. So if you don't check this box right here, when you click on Apply QA Codes, it's only going to pull the information off of your CAC. For government users, that's perfectly fine. But with contractors, they might want to check this box. Or for non-CAC login users, they might want to check this box to include their name, because the only thing that will show up for them, for non-CAC login users, is their email address and the date. That's it. But if you want their name and their title, then that's what this checkbox will be. So that'll include their name and their title. And they'll be able to use that when they click on the Apply QA Codes and sign 4025. All right, any other questions?
When you finish reviewing, you've applied QA codes, signed the 4025 and the transmittal package, you then that date's sent to contractor. You enter that date when you're sending it back after you've completed everything?
So that date will automatically get done if you're clicking on this Apply QA Codes and sign 4025. It will set everything up correctly and you can back it out. Now, if you find that you need to make a change, like there was another lady who had a problem. Oh, speaking of which, she realized that she gave the wrong QA code, but before the contractor acknowledged it, she was able to go back into it, delete this date, and update the QA code in order to do that. So the only time you're really going to be messing with this date is if you have to make some kind of change to the QA code. But note that when you make the change to the QA code, what's in the document package doesn't get updated. At which case, probably the best way to handle that is make the change, then open up this 4025, save that to your computer, upload it into either this document package, or if you've already signed it, you're going to have to add a new document package and upload it in there. So that way you've got a record of the correct QA report at that, the QA code for that particular one. And then you can enter this date back in there to send it back off to the contractor.
Yeah, that's what I do now. I was just trying to make it more simple.
Okay. So it looks like somebody wanted to see exporting to Excel. Was there something specific they wanted exported to Excel, or just any general export? 1660 transmittal log. Okay. So let me go ahead and pop out here. Now, remember with the data grid, anytime you have a data grid, you can export this to Excel. So I'm actually going to just show you with the contracts itself, and I'm going to click on this export button that's by the search box. This will happen in any data grid. You'll see the search box, you'll see export. You click on export and then you'll choose Excel. It's going to ask you where to save it and what to name it. And then you're just going to put in district contracts or whatever happens to be the name of the file. And then you're going to choose save. And then wait a few seconds, because what it's going to do is it's going to go through the process and it's going to open up Excel. That's how you know that it's completed and saved correctly, because as you see, it will open everything up in Excel, and this is what it looks like. And like I said, I like doing it this way because now I can manipulate it however I want based off of the Excel file that I've got open. Okay, were there any other questions? Anything in the chat that we didn't get to, or nope? So Paul, did I get everything from the chat that needed to be talked about?
Looks good to me. answer the question, will the slides be sent to everyone? We posted them on our rms.usa.army.mil website. If you go there, on that home page, you'll see the CONUS quarterly webinar beginners training, and then you'll see the slides for CONUS beginners training. I'll pop the link here. Oops, excuse me. Let me get the direct link. Copy link.
All right, and when will that information be? This video be posted to the website?
The video will be posted to the website in about 5 business days. So pretty much, what's today? Today is Tuesday, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Well, Saturday we're not working, so Friday, Monday, Tuesday. So next Tuesday it will be posted. What you can see is I went ahead and uploaded the website on my screen so that way you can see. When you go to our website, if you scroll down, you'll see all of the training, and there is a link for all of the slides as well. So you can click on the links here for all of the different slides to be able to pull those ones up. All of the webinar training videos will be found under here. You can click this. This goes to our YouTube site, and that is where you will be able to find the YouTube trainings once we get there. Something else that is really good to know, if you don't know which patch release we're on, you can always come to this button where it says Release Notes, and it will tell you what's the newest patch. And of course, we've got some documentation, and if you need to reinstall. Now, one thing to note about reinstalling on the government, if this is the first time you've ever installed, don't use this because you will not have the right permissions to do so. You need to do it through the app portal. But we have a video on that, so if you don't know how to go through the app portal to install RMS for the first time, there's a video on our YouTube channel. Just search for, I think it's install, under the search tabs, and you'll be able to find that one. This is going to be going away soon because right now 238 is no longer accessible, but all of the YouTube channel videos will also be found here. So this will go to the general, and then this one down here will go to the YouTube channel specifically for all of the webinars.
Did all the 2.38 stuff get transferred into 3.0?
Yes. Yeah, everything from 2.38 has already been transferred into 3.0.
All right, so this is RMS PMO. I just want to say thank you for everybody that's attending today. Feel free to reach out to your district admins if you have more questions, and then they can always ask the PMO for more detailed answers as appropriate. I just want to thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.